Good evening, Westeros, and welcome to After the Fyre, the internet's #1 chat show about all things After the Fyre. And it's #1 because it's the only one. I'm with my lovely friends and fellow castmates here for our final ever After the Fyre. We've done it, chums. We did it. 3 years, 6 seasons, and we're here today. Some of us alive. Am I talking about the characters? Who can say? But before we start, I'll go around and we can just all, introduce ourselves and who we played. Oh, that felt bad saying that in past tense. Who we played. All right. To my immediate right, we have Tom.
Hello. I'm Tom. And I played Alfred and Enzo. What else do you want?
That was beautiful. Thank you.
I feel like it's an AA meeting.
Hi, my name is Tom, and I'm a role player.
And I'm a role player. Help.
Hi, Tom.
Hi.
Hi, Tom.
Hi. I feel safe. I feel safe.
Good. Good, because our characters went. No. Sam, you're next.
Hi.
Hello, Sam.
Hello.
Now, if you could list every NPC that you've played over the course of 3 years, thank you, just for the audience.
Hang on, let me boot up Roll20. This might genuinely be fun. I'm gonna have to have a look.
Can we all roll
see how
random
many
shit today?
What was that?
Can we all roll random shit today?
Sure. All your really bad stats, I think we should just roll them.
Ooh.
Yeah,
it'd be good to know what everyone's dump stat was. That would be good because I haven't looked at the sheets for a long time, especially the player characters. Does it mess up the overlay?
Up Roll20 right
good.
Now.
Okay. I have played in no particular order. Lady Faye Rowan. Who have I actually played in The King and His Court handout? Baelor. Maekar. Marin Martell. Have I played Balerion Utheris, or was that just like Charlie?
That was Charlie in the other campaign. I know Balerion quite well.
And Sir Brynden Rivers, the Blood Raven, played him. Pretty much, I think all of Leo's court: Leo Tyrell, Godric his Maester, Lord Randall Hightower, Sir Gawain Oakhart, Ransel Sloane, Tremon Ironwood, his squire, maybe very, very briefly. Sir Gorman Grainfield, Casella Lady Bright. I'm just going to list names down. This is dumb. I regret my decisions. Who else? So Dennis the Vigilant. Who else have we got in all the PCs? Bianca, Enzo's first mate. Yep. Galirio Bahar. Anyone remember Galirio?
Oh, Galirio.
Curly boy. Yeah.
He was good.
Sir Harris Ball, Lord Pierce Karen, Lord Mathos Costain.
The instant reaction.
Who else have we not talked about in a long time?
Gormy, Uncle Gormy, Sir Babblebrook,
Sir Ellery Peak,
Alistair,
Aerion Targaryen. We saw him young and crazy.
Yeah.
Little Lexi Wildfire.
Technically,
go wild.
Crazy.
And of course, Horatio Ironwood.
I am still so pissed that I didn't get a chance to stab that bitch.
No, that's fair.
And do you know what even John boils my piss even more? The fact that you can just waltz back into Ironwood now and be like, my castle. Anyway.
And Sir Min-Max. Thank you, Tom. Yeah.
Min-Max. So yeah, Sam's played everyone that wasn't us. She did a very, very good job.
As is my lot in life.
Well, not for much longer.
No.
But that's a conversation for later. Next up is Millie. Hello, Millie. Hi.
Oh, hi. Hi, it's me. I played Lady Faye Rowan as well, taking the reins over from Sam. Yeah, and that's it. I only played one person. She was great. I miss her.
And you did it so well. It was so good.
It was real fun. Thank you for letting me take her over.
Oh, it was super cool.
Yeah, it was very cool. It's just nerve-wracking taking over an NPC.
I bet. We've talked about this before, haven't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
did it
very
so
cool
well,
though. I like her.
Absolutely
I
knocked
like
out of
her.
the park.
Blah.
Yeah.
Just amazing.
But yeah, as her story ended, who knows? Maybe one day we'll see her again.
Maybe. Or at least just like, even if in a future campaign we see the new house sigil somewhere, that would just make my fucking life. Just to see it on a flag somewhere and be like, oh, those crazy kids made it happen.
Oh, they did it. Look at them. Speaking of crazy kids, one of Westeros's favorite crazy kids in the disaster couple that was Samara, I think we went with. V.
Hi, yeah, I played Mara, one half of Westeros's favorite disaster couple. That's all right, things could have been worse. I've liked playing Mara though. Just I've had a lot of fun with how cyclical all of her story has been. Just forever doomed to repeat the same mistakes.
But like from the very get-go as well. Episode 1.
Episode 1 was like immediately wonderful and tragic all at the same time. So it started with literally a wedding and a funeral.
Yeah. Oh my God. If you think about it, the campaign started with Mara losing an important male figure in her life and ended with losing another important male figure in her life. Rough.
It's apparently is a pattern with specifically Mara's, like not quite as bad as like Miria's every father figure dies, but every person that Mara ends up actually genuinely giving a shit about just either ends up hating her or dead. Just
weird.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, as completely impartial and unbiased as I am, it seems like there's a common denominator there somewhere.
It's definitely the Greenmont blood. Like you can tell Mara and Miria are still actually blood related. The curse of anybody who cares about them just having terrible things happen.
Oh dear. And then last but not least, the other half of Westeros's favorite disaster couple, Dawn.
Hey, I'm Don. I played Sir Oliver Nightwood. Then I played a man who has no name. And then I took over from Samantha, Sir Samuel Tarley, who became Lord Samuel Tarley, who became worm food.
It's true. He did. I think you have beyond Sam, you have the record for most characters played, right?
Yeah, I guess I played 3 of them in this campaign, and one of them had multiple faces, so.
Need several faces. We saw a couple. Yeah. And then as for me, I am Susie, and I played Lady Miria Ironwood. I will say that. I don't care. Who's going to stop me? No one, because she's dead, so get fucked. And I played her from very start to the very end. Stand out as Miria Greenmont, and then stuff. But we wouldn't be here if it were not for one Samantha Webb and a bright idea she had one day 3 years ago, where she found a bunch of weirdos on the internet and thought, I know what will be a good idea, assembling them and playing Game of Thrones with them. So Sam, because we haven't really managed to like grab you like this on an After the Fyre in quite some time, what was it like at the start? Like, what were your expectations? Like, with the very start of the campaign, what was the general vibe?
So I was talking to Charlie when we were playing on Encounter Roleplay. We were playing Acton Cthulhu. I was just talking to him about like GMing stuff and that kind of thing. And then I don't know, I probably just, like I want to do, just like came up with a campaign idea and was like, I'm just going to prep this because that's what I do now. I have a bunch of like unfinished prepped campaigns that I've never played with people. And so I kind of got started with that. And then I was saying to Charlie, like, would that be something that, you would be interested in? And she started recommending people. And, Susie and I, we were playing Acton Cthulhu together. V, we were on that as well together, and we were working together. And so we started assembling, the motley crew. And so we got all these recommendations. We got Jason in as well. And then I remember putting together this like I always do for like a streamed campaign, this like brief or this like primer for people to read through and stuff like that. And I will read through my premise bit because I think it set the tone. And I think we may have read this out before, but if you'll maybe I don't remember, but if you'll entertain me for a second. The year is 198 AC, about 100 years before the events of Game of Thrones. 2 years prior, the Seven Kingdoms was thrown into a bitter but swift civil war between two brothers. The first, a Targaryen bastard by the name of Daemon Blackfyre, and the second, a legitimate son by the name of Daeron II. You fought for Daemon Blackfyre, the Black Dragon, the wielder of the ancestral sword Blackfyre, Aegon the Conqueror, come again. You lost. Now, in the aftermath of the rebellion, with Daemon killed and his sons and sword exiled to Essos, you find yourself in the court of Lord Tyrell, Warden of the South. Traitors, but traitors amongst lords and ladies who fought both against you and alongside you. In this rotten, disgruntled, vengeful political atmosphere, can you rise again as a great house of the Reach to save your honour and your family?
Turns out, no.
No. I'm glad we answered that question.
Well, you know, a lot of stories start with a question, right? And that's the answer. No. But asterisk, kind of, because there are still at least two surviving members of House Greenmont. As in, you know, actually of House Greenmont. Marcia and Bren.
Yeah.
So, asterisk, no?
I mean, it's still standing. And it's probably on the right side of the war that's currently happening. So they're not, like, terribly placed, I guess. Probably
it became
not
a very
as good
personal
as they
story.
Started, but, you know.
Yeah.
It did, yeah. It very quickly transcended the lot of sort of like global politics, right?
Yeah, and even to a degree, I think the kind of house politics and stuff. But we jumped into even a couple of session zeros because the game has such a great system to create these like noble houses that bind you as player characters, give you a really like clear sense of what you're working towards or what you're fighting for or whatever. And because we're all absolute drama school disasters, people threw in a load of like really cool ideas and interpersonal politics, and just like it grew from that kind of premise to just something that was just so much bigger than that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and that's because everyone fit into it.
It was a weird one for me because I remember when you approached me to ask me, I was going to say no because at that time I wasn't really interested in Game of Thrones. I'd watched it up until about season 5, and I'd watched the show. I'd read the first book, and I dropped off it from like my own reasons. But then when you sort of gave me the like it was historical almost, you're like, oh, is this rebellion? And I was like, all right, I started listening to podcasts. I started reading up about the Blackfyre rebellion. And then I was like in it. And then I was like, fuck yeah, sign me up. And then I remember I was gonna, of course, because it's me, have a concept of a lady knight, right? And then you said, oh, what about playing, because of the age ranges, what about you play a young lady, a ward? And I was like, but being me at the time, I was like, yeah, if that's, if it's going to be good for the group, I'll do it. I initially super wasn't like, I was like, about doing it. But then, she's ended up being one of my favorite characters. So yeah, I almost wasn't in After the Fyre.
Oh, I'm hurt.
I know. It was nothing against you at all. It was just, I was just like, Game of Thrones? Nah, not for me, until it absolutely was for me.
And now you know everything ever.
You
so
do.
Weird.
You know more than I do now.
Yeah. The idea of you not knowing things about Game of Thrones is just like, does not compute.
3 years ago, didn't know shit.
I remember way back at the start of this when Sam was talking to you about it, like on our way home, on the train home from work. about stuff. And I also distinctly remember Sam and I used to have desks that were like next to each other in the office. And on lunch breaks, Sam would have Roll20 open and be typing away. And then I'd see the face of like, what are you planning, Sam? What are you planning? And I knew that if Sam wouldn't tell me, it was about something to do with Mara. But very occasionally I got little bits of like, well, there's this thing that could be really horrible. And I'd be standing over there going, look, that's amazing. This is great. I think like when we had Greg come and guest as Maekar, I knew that was happening. And I remember watching everybody, because I wasn't on that episode, watching everybody be like, who is this guest? And I'm just sitting in chat like laughing away, waiting for the reaction. It's just, those days were hilarious in the early days, just watching Sam with this grin on her face at her desk, just typing away notes and wondering which one of us was about to suffer something terrible in game.
It was all of
tell
you.
of the face.
Yeah. The inspiration.
How about you, Tom? What were your initial thoughts when you were asked to join us?
Well, it was Charlie was the one who actually came up to me and asked and said, "Do you want to play in this Game of Thrones game we're doing?" And I can't remember if we were still doing Call of Cthulhu on Encounter. I think we might. And I was going, well, maybe I don't know. I'm doing Call of Cthulhu. That's hitting that for TTRPG. And I said, all right, who's in it? And she said, oh, well, Don's going to be in it. Great, fantastic. And then said a bunch of other names. I don't know who they are. So I thought, okay, let me think about it. And then I came back and talking to chat, and I just, sure, why not? Let's give it a go. I had no idea for a character, I had nothing whatsoever. All up to the very point of the session 0. I can't remember which session 0. I think it was after we did the entire family thing. I still didn't have a character that I wanted to play. All I knew is that I wanted to play something slightly different to what I normally play. So I never really play archers or rangers or anything like that. So I thought, okay, I'll be something like a scout. And that was it. That was my entire thing, a scout. And that was it. And as we were going through the first, the session 0, we're doing the house, which took about 8 hours, something like that. It was a long.
we were doing it for a long time.
Session 0. It was brilliant. Slowly but surely, the character Alfred was created throughout that, with the help of Sam and Don and everyone else. I was able to kind of create Alfred somewhat from that. And at the very end, he was just a player. He was just someone who worked for the house. And I thought, well, I need something. I need bloody something. And I think it was you, Sam, who said, well, why don't you be a bastard? Or
I don't know, because I think you approached me.
Did I approach you?
Because you got a score on my bingo card. Whenever I play Game of Thrones, someone always goes, oh, can I be the bastard that no one knows about? There's always one.
Right, okay, it must have been me then. Maybe I was talking to Don or something when I was trying to figure out what the hell my character could do, because I think
Don knew we
had chatted about it because Oliver knew. We decided that Oliver was like the only one who knew. Even Alfred didn't know, right?
That's it.
Not at first.
That's right. Yeah.
That was it. And because I was talking to Don, I was trying to figure out what thing Alfred could be. And then I think we came up with that. And then that's it. I must have come to you, Sam, and say, I'll be the bastard if you want, just to add another. It was essentially just a kind of another wrench in the whole thing to kind of blow up the whole who's going to be in charge of the house. And because that was when we came in, I think that was the main problem that we had, right? Was who was going to take over the house, because we knew Lucas was going to die pretty much first episode. And that was going to be the thing that didn't really pan out that way, did it? Other things took control. And in the
I
end,
always fucking remember when you gave me a character description and you're like, he's got green eyes. And I was like, look, everyone in this family's got fucking green eyes. Can we mix it up a bit? And he was like, no, I really want him to have green eyes. And I was like, fine, fuck's sake. And then it came out he was a bastard. I sent Tom a message being, you fucking prick. I was so mad at him. I was like, this is
Yeah.
You son of a bitch.
It was good.
Never forget. Oh God. Don, what about you?
I think my entrance to After the Fyre was really similar to Tom's. Charlie approached me. I'd been playing Call of Cthulhu with Tom on Encounter Roleplay for a while. And Charlie was getting more involved with Encounter Roleplay. And I was running a Dragonlance campaign at the same time that Charlie became a part of. And I love Game of Thrones. Like I've been reading it since, I don't know, like the late 90s or something like that. Every time the book comes out, it's like the first day I just read the next book as soon as it comes. I've been waiting like 12 years now for a new one. But prior to 12 years ago, I read it voraciously. So I was really excited. I didn't know the system, but I'm always like eager to learn new games and new systems. So that was exciting. And I didn't really know anybody. I was involved in Encounter Roleplay. So I'd watched some of you stream before. I'd watched some of Octoon Cthulhu. I was doing all of like the video editing and all that stuff for Encounter Roleplay at the time. So I'd seen some of that game. I thought it was really fun. I was like, man, that sounds like a great group of people to meet. And I came up with the idea to play a Dornish knight. Everybody else was playing Reachers, but I kind of think Reachers are maybe a little pompous. And I was like, you know what? I want to play somebody who's a little bit more like, just counterculture to these people. I want to play somebody older who doesn't have an immediate claim to the house, which was the big problem to start with, who's going to end up in charge of the house, but maybe they can find their way there over time. And so that was Sir Oliver. And he became one of my favorite characters that I've ever played. I loved playing Sir Oliver, and I enjoyed playing Samwell Tarly and the Faceless Man as well. But that first, couple of seasons, getting to know you all was awesome. We became fast friends, and it's been a long campaign. I'm so glad that I said yes, because there was a moment where I was really busy and I thought, maybe I shouldn't do one more thing. But I'm so happy I did.
It's the life of TTRPG people, I guess. We're all kind of just so busy that we're kind of like, all right. And then look what happened. It's so wild, though, that all of us at some point were like, before we decided on doing it. This might not have happened. Like, just one of us saying no, like, could have been.
Yeah.
But somebody who joined us much later in the campaign, but felt like she'd been here from day one, Millie. What was it like when you were approached?
Massively intimidating. Partly because she'd already been brought to life by Sam, and she did such a great job with her, but mainly from a logistics point of view. I'm not good at remembering things. And this is a universe I didn't know any of the facts of, playing a politician who would know all those facts. And also remembering everything that my character had done in the campaign so far. So going back over all the VODs and watching those and making notes and having these big files to look through. Trying to remember my own name and my titles at some point was a bit taxing. My little ADHD brain was just like, no, don't want to. So I think for the first couple of episodes, I was just riding on this like high of absolute information overload terror. Mm-hmm. But as soon as that sort of leveled out and I got comfortable with who she was and got comfortable with the fact I could go, Sam, I don't remember this fact. Please tell it to me. Thank you. I'll pretend I know it. Once it stopped feeling like a test that was completely self-imposed, it was a fucking riot. I played with, I think, like half of you I've played with before, and the other half was like wonderful new fun experience. Definitely never done a romance storyline before, so thanks for that, Tom. You've broken me in beautifully. I feel weird and wrong now.
It's a good job we don't do phrasing on this channel.
No, we do not. Yeah, it's been awesome, and I love that this group is so down for the drama and the juice. That afterwards, especially some of those scenes with Mara, afterwards, we'd just be like, ah! We would start mean to each other. This is great.
Yeah, in the inbox it was always the conversation of like, oh, it'd be so nice if we could be nice to each other. Could you imagine how cool that would be? Nah, they're going to continue to be absolutely awful.
Nah. If Mara and Faye were friends, the whole world would be doomed. Nobody needs that much persuasive power all in one area. That's dangerous.
God, could you imagine if any of the women in this campaign got on? Can you imagine what a kingdom would look like?
We'd run our own little
Faye
rebellion.
And Mara leading up the politics, Miria leading up the fucking army, Marcia leading up like domestic affairs. Like, the whole world would have been ours.
Faye and Miria got on. It's just we met twice.
Yeah,
very briefly. We had other things to do, you know. Coulda, woulda, shoulda.
Yeah. Those are too many conspiracies and dickheads to sort out.
Oh.
But she's not here with us today, but I do want to give massive shout outs to Charlie because she was a lot of the driving force with getting this campaign up and running, and she was definitely there with us a lot in the early seasons before unfortunately life kind of got in the way and she couldn't join us anymore for the campaign. But yeah, basically without Charlie this campaign wouldn't have fucking happened. So
yeah, she blind dated all of us. You guys should meet.
She like shoved it all in a room and went, go. But yeah, so excuse me. God, how do we even start to talk about? I guess with previous After the Fires, we've discussed each season as it's happened, right? So like season 6, let's just start there before we get into like viewer questions because we had a bunch. And also chat, BT dubs, if you have any questions, please do put them in chat. I'll try and collect them where I can, and we will try and answer them for you towards the end. But season 6, okay, so season 6, big war already happened. Big war already start. But this was like, we saw most of the battles of the campaign in season 6, right? There was Summerhall, there was the Bone Way, there was Highgarden. I think there was the bells. Yeah, there was 3 big ones, right?
We diplomacied our way out of a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
There's a lot of marching. A lot of marching. Yeah, this one very much felt like a season that was on the move constantly, right? Like everything was constantly going. And even when we had gaps between episodes and we did sort of like house actions and stuff, a lot of stuff advanced. So where did we actually start season 6? Like where was the very start of season 6?
Arriving at Highgarden from my side of things, wasn't it? Or was
that was the previous
that was
season.
5.
That was 5. You were at Highgarden.
This was after the wedding then.
This was after the wedding.
It was the aftermath of that.
Starting the march with the host and building the host.
The wake for sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really the building of the host and the reach, right? That's where the season started for you guys. And then Enzo, were you with Faye? You weren't. You were elsewhere.
Enzo scarpered at the wedding. Yeah. He said peace and ran.
That's right. You got the gold medal for the running away 205 AC.
That's
Enzo
it.
Style.
That's it.
Yeah.
So this season was essentially him apologizing by doing a lot of things that Faye wanted the entire season.
Hi, could you just like torture this guy for me? Thanks.
Yeah. That was the Enzo storyline this season.
I'm sorry that I, made assumptions about what you wanted and then ran away when things got spicy. Who do you want me to kill again? Thanks. XOXO.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, and then for me with Miria, it was trying to build support in Dawn before doing her own military actions.
You just recaptured Ironwood, hadn't you? End of season 5
I think that was
that
season
kind
5?
of battle. Yeah,
it was. Yeah.
Yeah, so I just got Ironwood, and then Bitter Steel was like, right, Harris, you go off and, you know, with no support.
Yeah.
You take this random fucking woman we picked up and then just go and, you know, take the reach.
Well, it was to combine with the Tarly host, wasn't it? It was to combine forces to make
it's very much
a host.
Yeah, you'll find them along the way. You'll convince them, kind of thing.
Yeah.
They concentrated their forces into Dawn.
Yeah.
And they were like, yeah, you can go off and capture the reach.
Yeah, you know, the entire reach. You can do it. Good lad. Pat, pat. Yeah, because I remember, because I was very torn between doing the sensible in character thing, as in turtling myself in my fucking new castle and being like, nope, or getting to role play with my friends.
Yeah.
So I was like, yes.
It's always the thing, isn't it? That's always the question you got to ask.
Yeah, and I feel like that came into effect a lot for me this season, was like, what is the tactically, like, if I'm going to play to win thing to do, and what bit will let me play with my friends?
Yeah.
So Miriam might have made a couple of decisions in season 6 which seemed very suboptimal and driven by emotion. That's because A, it's a damn story with drama about people, so she's going to do stupid stuff, and B, I actually I'd spent 5 seasons just role playing with Sam. I wanted to role play with other people.
That's accurate.
Oh God. But I think our first big, like, major event of season 6 was the Summer Hall, right? That was the first, like, really, really big, juicy, like, holy shit moment. So Sam, talk us through Summer Hall.
I guess that was one of those face moments where what happens in my brain is I think, okay, well, we've got these kind of characters and with this is happening, like, what could we do? What could be juicy? And then I'm kind of playing through scenarios in my head a little bit, and then my brain goes, oh, what about this really juicy thing? I'm like, no, we can't do that. Although, actually, okay, let's try it. And I remember actually writing it. I think I was like visiting family. I think I was like either with my parents or like with my extended family or something. So I was tapping away on my phone, like, ideas as I was having them. And it was just like, because we've got, little Let's Drink Wildfire. I'm like, what would he potentially do? So I thought, sure, I can hand wave a bunch of wildfire in the cellars of Summerhall. Why not? Fuck it. So I did. So because it was season 6 too, and I'd said at the kind of top, I was like, this is going to be my last season. So I kind of thought to hell with it, with those like, oh, is that a bit too much kind of thing? So I was like, no, let's go for it. So I went for Don. Not for the first time either.
I mean, as well, you can't ever have too much when you're talking about the Targaryens, right? These are the people that cut about calling themselves the dragon, and they're out there with their fucking white hair and purple eyes, like it makes them all special or some shit. Like, yeah, it's extra shit, but it seems very much like something Aryan in particular would do.
Yeah. And as much as I've played it from their perspective, like, I'm on your side. Like, they are the oppressors. They are the people in charge. They are garbage individuals. And so you can even see that with, like, when Baelor's just like, I'm not apologizing for what he did, or, Maekar just stomping around and trying to get what he wants. They're all awful people. And so it was kind of like that, because we had a little bit of that in the conversations between Lord Leo as well, when it's like, well, what good's a hostage if you're not prepared to, like, use them? So Aerion probably was just like, not even considering that. He was probably just like, oh, well, they've come and besieged me. Oh, fuck these guys then.
Yeah. I think that's one thing as well, that, like, our modern sensibilities, as it were, has to reconcile with feudal sensibilities. Like, I know, like, Samuel and Mara were very much like, they murdered children, like they killed children, they killed prisoners, but like in the feudal era, who gives a shit? Who literally cares? Like nobody cares.
It was a really good propaganda line.
Oh, it was excellent. And it definitely did drive some support. Like there's some people that would be like, hey, this is bullshit. But in sort of like the broader political landscape of a place like Westeros.
Mm-hmm. And I think, because a lot of the children who died or the people who died were wards, that those families in particular, anybody affected by that directly, that's where you get into feudal pride, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's so funny that happened at Summerhall. It's like the unsafest place to be. If you're a ward, don't go to Summerhall. Don't be there. It's not good.
Nothing good happens at Summerhall to wards or hostages.
Ever.
Canonically, it burns down anyways. We just kind of sped things up by like 70 years or something like that.
Yeah, we just accelerated it.
Absolutely.
If you think about it, the Targaryens should thank us, because that means that they won't have their line almost completely extinguished at Summerhall when it burns down.
No, that's very true.
We did a service.
I loved what you did with Summerhall. I thought it was great, even though like you were coming after my character. One of the big questions I had that I wanted to answer this season, I didn't know how it'd play out, was, is Samwell, or can Samwell be an honorable knight or lord? And he wanted to be, for sure, but he was also ambitious, and he also was kind of antisocial and didn't care about rules. And so there's kind of these conflicting sides, and there's a moment in there where he could have stopped the wildfire from falling and possibly saved the hostages and some of the men who were in there, but he definitely would have died in their place. And in that moment, I was like, that's the answer. Like right now, if he does this, and he probably, like, not 9 times out of 10, he would have made the roll because it's like a strength roll or something. And he just didn't make it that time. So like in that moment, I was like, that's the answer to his question. But then he had to keep going after that, and things changed again.
And it was like you missed it by like 2 points or something as well.
It was so close,
like,
yeah.
So that I wanted to lend that into my narration. So it was like you almost had it, and then it just, holding up the wildfire like above you, like it slipped out of your hands, kind of thing. But I remember as well that we were talking because we've played battles in previous seasons, and it's been very tactical, and it's been very like, I'm moving my unit to go here and they're going to attack them and stuff like that. And that works if that's the game you want to play. And it also works from kind of a more top-down perspective. And I think particularly for us, it was important to do those battles like that when, quite a lot was on the line for the various sides that were involved. I think we've almost had like 3-way fights before where, like Ironwood has come in and
Vulture's Roost.
Vulture's Roost. That's the name I'm looking for. But then there were like Reacher houses there, and then there were the bandits there too. So it all kind of, there was a lot going on. But I remember us talking and you saying like, I'm not a massive fan of the warfare system as it is. And I was like, well, look, we could do maybe one of kind of roughly 3 things. Like we could do something that is like really personal and really just your character trying to get through this battle, or we can do the more tactical thing, or we can do a little bit of maybe in between or something and see how that kind of shakes out. And so we kind of, this season particularly, I think we've really lent on the kind of personal perspective or point of view. But it just made it, what was easy about that battle for me then, because it allowed me to narrate you into the situation a little bit. And I never want to force people down a certain route. And thankfully, I think I recognize that everyone here as well, because we've pretty much all GM'd quite a bit. We recognize when we're kind of being led, or like where things are kind of going. You shake your head, Millie, but like I think as an actor as well, you've kind of got that sensibility as well. Like the kind of yes and, like where things might be going. And so Don, you played along really beautifully as well. And then allowed me to basically kind of, I think you knew that there was like this thing coming, and it was just about figuring out like when to like drop the bomb.
I knew it was coming at some point. Not exactly how it would be introduced, but like I could feel it, of course, and I loved it. Right, like I'm all about doing what my character would do in a given situation, and knowing that I'm collaborating and throwing my character into possibly a deadly scenario with high consequences to everybody else around them is really fun for me. So I loved it.
There's so much too about that, the kind of denouement of that whole battle, to go into the description of it all, to probably to take in for you when you were there, like the Sivas table, and it was very kind of exactly constructed, because there was a ritual that, because we had the new Swords Chronicle stuff that had magic in it, and of course the Targaryens at this age are, they're trying to use magic, and Bloodraven in particular with his green sight and stuff like that, and Aerion trying things out and thinking that he can do all these things. I think it failed. If I remember it, because I rolled for it like before the session, because there's like a certain procedure you go through in terms of like a number of different rolls that you make to kind of in Swords Chronicle to kind of complete these rituals, and I think it failed. I think because he didn't have maybe like a good enough like thing to connect you, or to connect like him to you, and so it was like the last roll or something that it didn't quite complete the ritual properly. But there was still like the Sivas table, and there was like the dragon and the kind of elephant, and they were like, there was blood on it, and then there was that to take in, and then there was like the candle that was on it that was lit, and then there was like the rope that was leading up to the wall, and having to kind of go through all these things. Obviously it must have been a lot to take in, and then say like, okay, you look up and then there's like 100 little vials of wildfire, like on these on the candle frames and stuff that are being held up, and this rope's like about to pop.
There was the disemboweled kind of oh, sorry, Don.
I was just going to say, I love the magic element of it. I like your description of it and everything. And Samuel didn't believe in magic at the time, but he did believe in explosions. So he did what he knew.
It's pretty hard to reconcile with an actual physical explosion. Personally speaking, I think magic's bullshit and I hate it. I'm still not bitter or anything, but that's fine. But no, that was, I think, one of the most pivotal moments of this season as well, because it gave Faye and Mara a very, very intense story beat afterwards too. So what was that like, especially for like Faye? You're having to contend with the fact that, Samuel is the boy that, you were supposed to marry, and maybe emotions aren't quite as clean cut as you would like them to be. And maybe you're a little bit still hung up on him, even though he's trash garbage man.
Don't be crazy.
And then he's told you to look after his scumbag wife, and you're so freaking dutiful. You have no choice but to do that.
Of course not. So close to shooting her through the head with an arrow. Really close. God damn it.
I did think about trying to like bribe you. I was like, I'll be a tenner.
No, unfortunately, made her make a promise, and she was all honest and stuff.
This is what honesty gets you in Game of Thrones. You don't get to kill people that you probably would love to.
Whoa.
that was so much fun to play through, because I knew as soon as I saw what was happening at Summerhall exactly what Mara would do, because it's what Mara always does. Because she has no real after, I can't remember which season it is now, because this entire show is just one long season in my head. After like the tourney, where Marcia almost murders her in the Godswood, she lacks a very distinct fear of her own death, not because she believes she can't die, but because in her head, like the gods let her live so she could fulfill this promise that she made with her vows. And so it's a thing of like, well, if I do this and I die anyway, it's not going to matter. I would have done the thing I said I was going to try and do and failed. So it's the reason that Mara is like, danger, where Samuel's involved, run headfirst in, don't care about me. Which then, obviously ties Faye, unfortunately, to her, because Faye's so honest. And Mara really tries being like, you don't have to do this. You can just stay here. Seriously, I'll just go. It's fine. Thank God Faye does, because otherwise that would have been the end of Mara right there. but that was so much fun playing out that argument, and those really, like, I think it's the first real proper confrontation that they have. Because like back when Mara takes her hostage, there isn't a big like blow up about it, really. And this, I think this is the first time they really like come to blows over calling each other out. Because I think Faye turns around and is like, well, if you're supposed to be looking after him, what's he doing here? And Mara's like, oh, it's nice that you think that you could have stopped him doing this too. Like,
he could have done just that.
Maybe, but this is Samuel Tarly. If it wasn't going to be this, it was going to be something else.
Achilles tendons go wrong sometimes. I'm just saying. Might not shoot him through the head, but accidents happen for the good of the land and whatnot.
We also worked out that it accidentally kind of fulfilled this prophecy that Sam had given.
Oh yeah.
Had given us way back when. So way back at I think it was at the tournament, Mara comes across Devil Child of the brothers, who tells her about this really weird dream that he's had about the huntsman burning and the huntress coming in. And it's not really implied whether it's saving the hunter or putting him out of his misery. And Faye in that moment is obviously like the image of the huntress with the bow.
Yep. Stole your fate for a destiny point. Yeah, it was just so kind of fascinating to see it from those 2 points of view, because I think the majority of stories you see in movies and books and stuff, they will show a rivalry like that, if you want to call it a rivalry, particularly between two women, and you will only see one side of it. But seeing what both of them mean when they say things and how the other person interprets that, and for them that's completely true. Mara saying, oh, you don't have to come with me, that to Faye is her going, you get out of my life, my husband, fuck off. It's
which
not
is like self-service, which is not at all like Mara's whole thing with Faye was never like, there was a point at the tournament where Mara has a moment of like jealousy, but after that she kind of lets it go and realizes she's being kind of stupid. But like Mara never throughout the season has, to
be honest.
Mara never has a kind of jealousy thing with Faye. Mara almost kind of weirdly feels guilty and just fails at trying to like build any kind of bridge, because Mara is terrible at that with anyone that she's evenly matched with, kind of intellectually, in talking about things and convincing things, because Faye can see right through Mara in that sense, and then almost like maybe a bit too far into like Faye interpreting some stuff that Mara is at all just being like, no, you're important to him, so you're important to me, just stay here, don't get yourself hurt. Like, I don't want to be responsible for you for that reason, which comes out like entirely wrong. It's like you said, it's like a rivalry that they have that kind of almost does and doesn't exist at the same time.
Yeah. And it's so cool to be able to play that, because I think a lot of people, especially like we enjoy playing together, a lot of people would change how they play so that they get to do that more. Yeah. It was very enjoyable to play with somebody who was just like, so we're going to make this a shit show, right? We're just going to lean into it and see what happens. Okay, cool.
I think we were always both open to the fact that maybe in an intrigue somewhere, either because of the dice, or I think most of our intrigues were without dice, because we were like, we don't need to roll, we'll just see if we convince each other. Like, there were moments where they were getting kind of close to maybe being like, oh, maybe we can figure something out, and then just it falling apart like immediately right before that could happen. And both of us being like, we're open to the two of them actually coming together
with each other,
but they just keep missing each other on all, like, they agree on so many things in principle, but the way that both of them want to go about it is just completely the opposite of the other. And it was so fun to play two female characters that did have this kind of awkward love interest thing in there, and that Samuel ended up marrying Mara and not Faye. There was Millie and I working out that Samuel was still engaged to Mara when he got involved with Mara and Alistair, which like we were chatting about it. We're like, oh my god, that makes it even worse. But like two female characters with that romantic element in there that weren't just catty at each other about that.
Yes,
because the source of their issue was never that you know, that Faye was engaged to Samwell and that Mara married him. That was never the point of main contention in their relationship. It was how that marriage affected everyone else.
Not even just that. I think the main bone of contention was that they have fundamentally different viewpoints on what your responsibility is. And for Faye, it's duty, it's putting yourself second, it's doing the right thing. And for Mara, it's just like, live your life. Don't do what other people, and both of them could have learned a bit from each other and didn't. Oh no.
Yeah, had it not been a huge war situation over time, maybe the two of them would have come towards it. Or if something had brought Faye over to the Blackfyre side, there could have been something there that would have been amazing.
Not being hostaged. What?
Yeah, well, the thing is, even then, Mara only took Faye hostage because she knew Samwell wouldn't put her to the sword, and he'd look like an idiot threatening her and then not doing it.
Yeah.
So
I love the awkward Samwell moments. So especially when they were in the same room, when he's just like getting up, they sat down together. Let
me go stand by my sword. Like Samwell just being entirely uncomfortable at his wife and his ex-fiance. And it was always when they were getting on in the same room as well. Like the few times that they actually agreed about things. Just the
how was that, Don?
I loved it. I thought it was great. I was here for all of the mess. Samwell was not emotionally equipped to deal with that. It was fun to play. It was very fun to play, especially because like sometimes, you know, like a lot of times, especially this season of Game of Thrones, you know, Samwell felt like he had to kind of make these big sweeping decisions that probably, you know, obviously had a lot of consequences, and he didn't want to shut anybody out. He wanted to like not be the kind of person who doesn't listen to the intelligent people around him. So he was trying to do that, but like everybody's got their personal squabbles, and certain things mean a lot to like Mara that don't have to necessarily do with the war, or mean a lot to Faye that don't necessarily have to do with the war. And he's just trying to get this war out of the reach as quickly as possible. And so like sometimes they would come together in a moment where they like agreed on something that he did not agree with. And he would try to hear it out as much as he could. And then he would be awkward because of the social and romantic aspects of like that situation. And it would make him angry. So he's not a person that's quick to anger, but he got angry a couple of times throughout the season just because he didn't know what to do in that moment, how to navigate those relationships. It was really fun to play.
That scene on the hill, the drinking game thing,
that's fun.
Ruined me. That was real fun.
Oh my God. Really, I was watching that scene the whole time. Like, I just kept getting closer to my fucking screen. I'm like, what's going on?
So you guys bringing your own juice.
That whole scene on the hill, though, was like both the scene of the drinking game between Don and Millie, and then afterwards as well, there's a little bit that could have changed how we approach the Summerhall battle, because Samwell at that point, after hearing a messenger comes up and after hearing something is like, fuck it, maybe we should just go in now, just attack now. We're not really prepared, but like, why drag this out? And he looks to Mara to be like, what do you think? And Mara's like, I think that's a bad decision to go in now. And I still stand by the fact that it probably would have been even more of a trash fire if we'd have gone in then unprepared in the dark. Just
maybe, I don't know. Maybe we would have gotten them. We'll never know.
Yeah, maybe they wouldn't have had time to set up all the bullshit.
I do wonder what would have happened if we'd gone for because we agreed to the parlay, and then I think we had the moment of like, hold on a minute, they might just kill us on the spot because we don't fucking trust these people. Like,
I think in general, a lot of the season for Samwell trying to do his best to be a good leader, but still win. And so giving a lot of space, or at least some space, more space than I think most lords in that situation would give to other people, including Harris Ball. It led to their defeat, honestly, I think. And that, if he had been more of a, militarized, I know everything's going to be exactly like I say, anybody who stands in my way, you're out. Harris Ball, you're out. I'm ruling the reach. Then maybe they would have been more successful, at least in the short term. And I think, he probably thinks about that in his last minutes. That's probably part of what's going through his mind.
we were all kind of waiting, I think, for Samuel to be like that, to be like, right, Harris is off.
Yeah,
I'm gonna rule the roost.
I thought, and I knew in my heart that the Battle of Highgarden, if it hadn't as gone as it did, Harris was not making it off that field. I knew that Samuel would be like, "Oops, I slipped, and that's Heartsbane. Oops, oh no."
It became true after Harris demanded that they change strategies last minute. Samuel had the idea in his head that if I get a chance to stop this kid, like he had nothing against Harris. He is a good wrestling partner, but Samuel didn't think that he was the right person to be making those decisions, and that he was making wrong decisions. And so he was, if I'd had the opportunity, if Harris had come with Samuel, like he said he was going to, in the heat of battle, if there was the right moment and nobody was looking, absolutely, Heartsbane would have come out.
But you see, even with meta, it was Faye that put him onto a little bit of that.
It's true.
And actually, I think it was kind of maybe an unintentional outcome of one of the intrigues or something, that he was like, actually, I'm gonna change up the strategy to what I think is best, and like, I'm gonna try and he was just like Samuel, probably. He was trying to assert his like dominance within the the political little sphere of those lords, but also within the army as well, because it was mostly Tarly men too.
But honestly, it's a good job it played out as it did, because if it hadn't, and Miria hadn't died in the mountains, there would have been a tiny assassin child out there that would learn about what happened to their father.
Do you remember me talking to you about like doing that as a D&D character? Like, I'm gonna fucking pocket that, because if someone came to you and said, I'm playing a rogue and this is my character's backstory, I was sold by my mother to an assassin's guild, like, out of town. I was raised there, and I was then to murder all of the ruling, or the dynasty of the ruling, monarch or whatever, and stuff like that. And you'd go through all this, and she was the bastard daughter of this house that she took over, that she was then, and she was sold, taken away from her warding and all this kind of stuff. I would turn around to that player and I'd be like, fuck off. That's ridiculous. But this all happened. Or would have happened if you'd had the kid.
I don't know. I feel like for that particular question, I don't know what she would have done until the moment. I feel like a lot of, for me, was like, I don't know if she could just hand the kid over. Like, I don't know if she'd have that in her, especially after everything. So maybe not. Maybe she'd just say, fuck you, and go on the run from the Faceless Men and see how long that lasted. But
I mean, a part of me, when he first made that deal, when the Faceless Man came up and made the deal, I genuinely thought, when you said okay and you got the poison, that you were going to order all your troops to jump him.
You just fucking ice him.
Thought maybe this is it. I mean, because you've just accepted you'll give up your legacy, which has been a big part of Miria, massive part, trying to find out who she is. And I genuinely thought you were going to jump him.
But here's the thing. Miria, much like her fucking father, was far too honourable.
Yeah.
She wouldn't have ever done that.
It's a problem trying to mimic your supposed father, you see.
Fucking dads, tell you. Waste of space.
I know.
Ongoing theme, though, the way that honor screws up characters that try to be honourable.
Yeah.
Like for everybody, because so often any of the good things that our characters have done have led to terrible consequences. Miria's want for honor, led her to lose a lot of people she cared about. The few times, Mara tried to be honorable way back at the beginning, like trying to get the house back, trying to get Miria back, either blew up in her face or were ultimately disregarded in the shadow of things that other people did that she suffered consequences for. Like all of our characters, Faye's tied up with the whole honor and duty, and that causing her a lot of grief too. Enzo, I feel like less so, because Enzo's a pirate,
Enzo doesn't believe in
his
honor.
own honor.
He makes fun of people who say, "I did this for honor." He always made fun of them.
Yeah, and whenever Samuel tries to be honorable, it never quite gets there. Like Summerhall.
I like to think in Samuel's mind that he is being honorable in his version of the thing, because I like to think that he was thinking constantly of the bigger picture, and he's like, well, okay, if I just do something slightly dishonorable here, in the grand scheme of things, it won't matter because this is better for everyone, And I felt that was his entire character, but those little things just kept going.
Growing and snowballing.
Yeah, that's it.
If we'd have won, it wouldn't have mattered, because history is written by the victor, right? So everything Samuel did on the way to victory would have been smoothed over, because
I feel like the Tarleys always tried for, in all the dishonorable things they did, like the coup at the wedding and stuff, was always in like as least as they thought that they could get it, because it was like, we could have an all-out civil war in the Reach, or we can maybe kill a couple of people at a wedding under guest right and not have that, which is what ended up happening. We killed one person at the wedding, which was Ellery. I'm sorry, Susie, I still feel bad about that. But it did unify a lot of the Reach to our cause and prevent lots of kind of infighting in the early days. That it was still terrible, and ultimately the end was also terrible because we lost. Like, it's
maybe there's like, it's not the worst thing in this society how they acted at points, beyond obviously breaking the oath at the wedding.
Yeah.
But if you cast this in the modern society and you think about the kind of person who would do something like this, the kind of person who's very wealthy and very powerful, who's willing to maybe let their factory or whatever it is spill more toxins into the environment that they should. Yeah, there's some people that in this town over here might get sick. Some people might die, but only a couple. And then I'm taking care of all of my thousands of employees. I'm continuing to build my business. Like when you start to think about it like that, it almost makes it grosser that they skirted the line for as long as they did. And I think Samuel did feel like he was doing the honorable thing, if not the thing that society says is honorable, but like in his mind, though, this is the right thing. But the longer the campaign went on in the final season, especially with Faye constantly saying like, no, you're not. No, you're not. You're wrong. You're wrong. He did start to doubt. And by the end, like, and when he failed at the end, and even Baelor is like, no, fuck you, you're gonna die now. Like, I think he came to realize at the very end that he'd done everything wrong.
Oh,
was the first dishonor, let's say, for Samuel killing Faye's knight? Do you think that was like the first where he just thought, okay, just one person has to die for this to work? It's just one man. Although it is Faye's essentially like closest.
Did he know that at the time though? I think he knew that.
Yeah,
I mean, sure guy.
Would he have known? I can't remember. I think he did. I think he met the knight at the tournament beforehand.
Definitely. In my mind.
I'm sure during the episode you were like asking him who he was, but he refused to say.
I can't remember, to be honest. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, because he did. He wouldn't give up his name. That's true. Right. I do remember that. Either way, though, killing an honorable knight, who was there for good reason, was not good. He probably didn't have to kill him. He could have captured him. That was just the easiest way to deal with the problem and make sure that, their invasion, temporary retracted invasion of Dorne was kept a secret. But no, I think the first dishonorable thing that Samuel did once I started playing and once I took him over from Samantha was continually lying about his level of knowledge and involvement in the attack on Fox Hollow years prior. Like, he constantly repeated that lie that like, I wasn't really involved. I hated what happened. But at the time, I don't think that was true. I think that Samuel was directly involved. I think that Samuel killed Fox Hollow people. And I question, I don't really know the answer to this, Samantha. You might be able to say, like, who was the more like influential or pushy or powerful person in that relationship between him and Alistair at the time? And I suspect it was probably pretty close to equal.
It's weird. It's something I never considered, actually. But probably Alistair, actually. Well, because we figured out, we revealed that really it was Costain that was like, whispering Alistair's ear. We even saw, because I remember it was Jason playing Briar, I think at the time, who kind of stumbled into that scene. And right at the very end, Costain and Alistair are having a little conversation in the woods as they're hunting. And it's kind of left like that. Jason never prodded.
I think
So I think it was Alistair that was
Mara
like
got close
pushing
as well.
this, probably.
The end of I think it was the next episode, Alistair starts trying to talk to her about it, and I didn't quite roll high enough to be like, what the fuck are you going on about? And he was like, oh, never mind. Like,
so I think what we've just found out here, it's Jason's fault the campaign turned out the way it did, because had Jason not had he
been a better house guard who reported the things he saw on the road.
I think he even rolled for it. I think he even rolled like notice or empathy or something to figure out what was going on. I don't think he got it.
No.
Just want to shift the blame, because a lot of the blame gets put on Miria's tiny child's shoulders. I just want to make it someone else's fault.
She was a grown woman by the end. You can't hide behind that for long.
Oh God. But so after Summerhall, getting back to season 6, because we went off on a big old tangent there. Getting back to season 6, we had Summerhall, and then Miria came up from Dawn to with Harris and her boys to catch up with the Tarly host. And it led to, as the only scenes that V and I were allowed to have in the whole campaign was just an argument again. And it wasn't that much of an argument this time. It was Mara sitting there being like, I've really fucked up. And Miria being like, yes, you fucking did.
Mara being genuinely sorry. Unlike the previous argument that they had. And neither of these arguments were planned either. Like,
no.
Susie and I never discussed like, oh, they're probably going to get into it. I think both times it's just been a thing of like one comment starts it, and it just like in a very sisterly fashion. Of course, you can't put these two in the same room together and expect them to get along at all. I think like the nicest they ever were to each other was like at.
Do you know where it was? It was Ashford. Mara wasn't even there. And Samuel was speaking to Miriam.
Yeah.
And she just said, I wish I could be happy for you. And that was it.
That was like
the nicest thing I had to say about her sister for the whole campaign.
Yeah. Oh no, Miria did say some very nice things with Mara, and like I really want to care, and I kind of do, but I'm choosing not to.
Yeah.
That scene got so like went from angry to heartbreaking for the both of them so quickly.
Yeah, that scene was very like emotionally rough, right? Because I was trying to reconcile Miria's anger with everything, because it's the meme at this point. Miria was just the angry girl stomping away around Westeros, but like she was dealing with a lot of emotions. There's a lot of grief that she hadn't processed. There was a lot of hurt, a lot of betrayal, and especially with Mara being the one, as she found out in that conversation, being the one to execute Ellery.
Mara didn't know that Miria didn't know, because Mara assumed that by this point, if she knew about Ellery, somebody would have told her what happened. But I guess Miria assumed that it was Samwell who had murdered him.
Yeah.
So, it's the kind of, it's really awkward because the Alistair thing, Miria's only ever really had Marzia's side of the story, because the two sisters have always had that distance. And I can imagine it must have been worse for Miria to be like, oh, I can't even like blame this on your husband and just be mad at you for choosing to marry him. You did this.
So that was the point when Miria's heart just broke then and there when she found it out, because the whole time, I mean, part of the reason why she's so angry with Mara is because Mara's always been like, it wasn't my fault. I didn't know it was Alistair. And she always was like, I couldn't do anything. And Miria's like, you can always fucking do something. That was like Miria was so angry with Mara. because Miria is that woman, like she's that woman of action. You can do something about it. Like her whole life from being a ward, she has done stuff about the situation she was in. So for Mara to just be like, I couldn't do anything, she's like, what the fuck do you even mean you couldn't do anything? How the shit did you let that happen? But she'd reconciled Ellery's death with being it was Samuel that did it. Again, Mara just stood by. She couldn't do anything, but then to hear that Mara had done it herself, that was like the final straw, and that was the real thing that made Miria's heart break in that conversation where she was like, I love you, but I can't do this anymore because now you have shown to me who you really are. You've shown to me that in that conversation, all of that I couldn't do anything was just like
now you could have done and you didn't. It's
you
like
could
I
have
think
done
that was
and
the
you
worst
didn't.
thing. Like you had maybe you didn't have a choice with Alistair, and maybe I can live with the fact that sure you didn't know. It took time for you to actually find out. And they've always had this disconnect where, Mara was supposed to be this lady of the house and Miria's path deviated. So they've always had a disconnect in that Mara being like, I tried to do the thing I was supposed to do and look how that went. And now Mara's doing the opposite after Miria was the one that said, well, just do something. Just do something, anything, just take some responsibility. And Mara kind of does. And it's like, no, not like that. Not like that.
And I think for Miria as well, her being betrothed to Ellery and her getting to know Ellery and getting to know him as this abused fucking kid, as this kid that was raised with like a fucking tyrant literally breathing down his neck, and knowing that he was so afraid of Maekar, and the fact that, Ellery wouldn't bend the knee, and she's like, because he fucking couldn't. He was actually someone who couldn't do something. And
Mara really did try to convince him, like, for the sake of my sister, just fucking do it. Like, she didn't really care in that moment if he was doing it and didn't mean it. She, like, that was her trying, because in that moment she has to choose between, do I make my husband look like an idiot and all of this look really weak, or do I choose my sister who's not here and hates me anyway, and has to, make that choice for her own kind of survival and what she started. And I had no idea when Miria like pins her with the knife. I had a moment in that moment where, like, Sam describes the guards coming because they can hear the scuffle. I'm like, what is Mara going to do? Is Mara going to have her sister grabbed and arrested and deal with that? Because it's their camp, their army, their men. They outnumber any of the forces Miria has brought. And Mara knows that Samuel isn't going to get in the way of whatever Mara chooses to do if Miria tries to kill her. We've already had family members trying to kill Mara. And in that moment, I had a little bit of peace, and like, if this is how Mara goes, it'll be really fitting. So I was like, no, Mara's going to tell the guards to leave. Let's see if Miria. It wasn't quite. It was me testing to see what would actually happen. But like Mara looking at Miria and being like, you got to do what you got to do. I did what I had to do, and I accept that you're going to have to do the same if this is the choice you make. And I think it's almost worse for Mara that Miria doesn't hurt her or kill her in that moment, because Mara legitimately feels bad about Ellery.
I'm gonna be honest. When I said, she punches her so hard in the face, she rockets her backwards, pulls her knife and holds it to her throat, I was like, is she gonna do it? Like, I didn't know what was gonna happen in that moment until we got there. And then, it was that realization that although Miria hates Mara with every fiber of her being, she still loves her too much, and she couldn't kill her own sister. We
never got to see it, but like Susie and I developed this backstory for them off of the screen, that when they were younger, they were really close, and Mara looked after Miria, and they had a really, really strong bond, which is then ripped apart when Miria's warded. Because like Mara in the first season is trying to get her sister back and kind of gets told not to push too many buttons, and now it's like this relationship that just falls apart, kind of outside of their control in some ways as well.
Yeah. I think for me, it really gave that catalyst for Miria to then just put Greenmont behind her in that moment. Like she had been pursuing her alleged Ironwood ancestry, because she saw that as an avenue for her to really get her freedom to set right the injustices that she sees, in the world, and to do her thing. But there was still part of her that was like, the Greenmonts, they raised me, they love me as their family. But But in that moment, I think with Mara, that was it. That was the last. And then going to Fox Hollow and Marcia just being like, what the fuck do you want? And Miria's like, whoa, hello? I just came to fucking make sure you were all right, but fuck you, I guess. That was it. That was the final nail in the coffin for Greenmont.
It's heartbreaking that that's the last conversation these two sisters have as well. And for folks in chat, Susie sent me like a death letter that Miria had written to Mara in the event of Miria's death. And let me tell you, I bawled reading it. If Mara ever gets that letter, there is nothing on earth that is gonna get rid of the guilt that she's gonna feel, because it's so fucking nice. It's so nice. Not necessarily about Mara, but the sentiment of the letter. Just don't hurt Susie's player characters. She'll write guilt letters to you, and they will hurt.
I'll do it. I fucking swear I'll do it. But yeah, so after that point, what happened there? So we had Summerhall, we had the big bada boom, we had the fight. Tom was off in the Reach looking for the man with the scar in the shape of the trident to uncover conspiracy. So about this conspiracy, about this Olenna Tyrell bollocks, what, Sam, what happened here?
Well, I think because of the being inserted into it, and as Millie was saying, not being able to get up to speed as quickly on like all of the politics and all the stuff that had been happening in previous seasons, we centered on this thing talking together about like, do you want like a conspiracy rather than like all the politics and stuff, something to kind of send to you and kind of something to figure out as well, because then at least you've got a target rather than just kind of being around and reacting to stuff.
Because unsurprisingly, I do enjoy a puzzle.
Yeah. And so I went about constructing a kind of conspiracy around and what the themes that were coming up were about kind of like the murder of her family, particularly the men of her family who had all been in the first Blackfyre rebellion. And I think it's not canonical, but we'd established that they had all died basically. And so when I was playing as her as an NPC, she was just really kind of coming of age, and then she was like, okay, I've got to assert myself as the leader of this house and stuff like that. And so we see her in like the first or second season stand up in Highgarden and basically say, I'm in charge, and if any of you fuckers have got a problem with it, you need to speak up now. And thankfully, Lord Leo's like, yeah, we recognise that. We recognise these are shitty times. Like, you get on with it. And then she started to kind of become weaved into like Simon's plot. But then with that kind of background of having all her, kind of father and her brothers killed, that's something I could kind of hang a conspiracy on. So I went about, and I knew we'd only got like a couple of seasons really to play through. So I didn't do too many connect the dots. I just did like a couple removed in terms of like how far you had to get along the conspiracy. Yeah, and so essentially, I mean, if you want me to just, come out and kind of say it, the plot for Olenna Tyrell was, if I murder all of their like potential heirs in terms of all the men of their house, then I can get a subservient house and I can mold them how I want. And so that's what she did. And so the order coming from, and that was interesting too, the order coming from the loyalist faction, not the rebels who had captured the Rowans. That would be interesting. I knew that would be juicy. So it'd be like, the order came from Olenna Tyrell. That would be like, what the fuck? And so when you've got something like that, I think that's what came first. And then I was like, okay, why? And you can always in drama and fiction, you can always find a reason. You can always, and that's where those are always the interesting points for me. And it's like, because we have this like D&D trope, which is like, sometimes you've got players who are like, why would my character do this? Why would my character be on this quest? But I always find it the most interesting when you're conflicted about a quest, or you're like, why would my certain character type here be interested in this kind of other different kind of quest? That's always really interesting to me. So I was like, why would like someone like Olenna Tyrell do this? Why would she conspire to do this? And then just figuring out, okay, well, she wanted to, you know, mold this house and the subservient house. So actually,
no.
Yeah, like, yeah, I mean, it have backfired on her though, because like in that kind of intrigue right at the end, she was like, this is kind of everything I wanted. But you don't quite realize why or what's going on. You know, mic drop, exit stage left, you know.
Yeah, she branded a political powerhouse and who's loyal to the crown. I mean, she did it. He played right into her hands.
But kinda. But now she's kind of got an enemy in court as well.
Well, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But we saw a bit of, and this was kind of, I guess, stemming from, maybe not consciously, but this kind of came from some of the stuff that was going around tangentially along the sidelines of the campaign, where we got hints of the fact that Olenna and Casella, Lady Bright, who'd married Lord Leo, were kind of fighting for power, and like Olenna still kind of ruled the roost a little bit and wanted to influence court, and she was holding court when Leo was away and stuff like that. But it was like, but it was Olenna, and his son was really too young, so it really would have been just Olenna, who not Olenna, Casella, his wife, who should have been managing the household, running court when he was away, all of that kind of stuff. And so it was kind of off the back of that a little bit, that little kind of rivalry, and just kind of the way I'd thought of kind of how Olenna was and kind of what her motivations and everything were, kind of played into all of that.
I love the complexity of that right at the very end, though, because in real politics, you don't know if you've won. It might feel like a victory, but you don't know what's bubbling underneath it all. And I kind of love that. Did I win? I don't know. That's juicier than like, yay, and now we all celebrate. That was fun.
Yeah, I always like things that are a bit more grey like that are a bit more interesting like that, rather than just you know, like I don't watch like superhero movies particularly or anything like that, where it's just like, you know, yeah, we did the thing, little party, you know, Ewok dance. I always like, I always prefer like, you know, slightly more ambiguous, like, is this thing like, you know, is he in a dream at the end of Inception or whatever? Like, I always love that kind of stuff.
Now, if there's ever a campaign for morally grey, it was this one.
Yep.
Yeah, we all made a few decisions somewhere along the line that were a bit like.
Let's just say that if Mara ended up pregnant, that might not go well. There's stuff going on in the background. There are letters have maybe been sent to some maesters and whatnot.
Oh. Oh.
You
well,
know.
trust me. Pregnancy in Westeros, not worth it. Don't bother.
It's all right. There's a good chance Mara would die in childbirth anyway. She has an endurance of 2.
Ouch.
So.
Do you want me to spill some real tea?
Yes, do it.
Ooh.
All of the pregnancy rolls you made were entirely redundant, because when Marcia cast that spell on Mara, she made her Baron.
I knew it. I knew it.
Oh, I suspected that would be the case. Mara kind
I remember you mentioning it to me, and I was just like, poker face.
Yeah. Mara always had the suspicion that perhaps she couldn't have children. I think there's actually a point where she shares that fear with Samuel, and he's like, magic isn't real, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
So the way that she, which weirdly is kind of comforting for her in that time. And she knows that Samuel doesn't really believe in magic, but she appreciates that he plays along with what she comes out with for the sake of the fact he cares about her. So she kind of tells herself, because that's always in the back of her mind, but she tells herself that she just can't have children with Alistair because the curse was to wither the roots of Oakheart. And that's kind of the half lie, half truth to her that she holds onto all the way through. Like that is, even though she always fears in the back of it that that's not really how it works, that is like the lie she tells herself. She admits it to Papa Tali at one point too, and he still lets her get married to Samuel. It's great.
Oh no, and she fucked those guards as well.
Well,
that's
you know, at least
awkward.
those guards got to
Just
have a good
Hunter.
time.
It's fine.
It's fine. It's not in my headcanon. She because we didn't ever see it, so it's not in my headcanon. Non-canonical.
Didn't happen. TMT.
The worst bit is Mara at the end of that like hates herself for doing it, but she's like, this once I'm gonna do as somebody has asked me.
I can't believe the
Asked
one
me to do
time. The one time she does it is to let guards run a train on her. That's the one time she does it.
No, I specifically said to Sam, it's only Hunter she goes for. She avoids that younger guard. He seems like an idiot.
Do things for somebody else. Nah, be a good person. Nah, fuck those men.
But
okay.
In the back of her mind, although she doesn't want to accept that Samuel is dead, because she can't. You know, it's somebody that you care about. You can't accept that until there's proof. She has to like for a second be like, if he is, I have to do this thing he's asked for, because otherwise the house is gone. Like the one thing that he really cared about was keeping control of a house and Mara being the head of that household. And so like she's like, I don't want to do this. I really don't want. I'm going to do it though. This is what he's asked. This is the last thing he potentially has ever asked of me. And then he rocks up the next fucking morning. And she's like, I feel so fucking guilty.
He did, and I don't think he wrote like immediately. Like he didn't add the word immediately.
Not right now.
No, but Mara also knows like I have to do this before I get captured, so there can't be questions. And if I wait too long, people are going to start adding dates up and being like, this doesn't make sense. So, and Mara saw the aftermath of that battle. It was brutal. Like they're seeing bodies of Tali men like all the way along this trek that they're taking. And Mara's already skirting the rules by being like, we'll go by way of looking to see if there's the army to somewhere safe.
Could you imagine if Samuel had rocked up and he just sees like a pair of soldiers breaches over a branch? He's like, whoa!
I suspect that part of Samuel being really shitty, and Don, you can say if this is true or not, being really shitty to Hunter at the end was because Mara had told him what happened.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Let's be honest.
Like that, if they'd have made it out alive, Hunter would have been a dead man.
Yeah, let's be honest. Both of those knights were going to die anyway, right?
Did Samuel hold it against Mara though, or did he actually appreciate that for what she did what he said?
I think it's one of those things. I don't know if he appreciated it because like his mind's still kind of on like all of the other things going on, but I don't think he held it against her. He did request it. But yes, both of those knights would have died.
The only way that you can keep a secret is if
I
the other person's
appreciate your good work, wife.
You were very diligent, wife.
The one thing that you can count on Mara to do, although she didn't always listen to Samuel, she always did have his and the house's best interest at heart. It's her greatest strength and her worst enemy was that, like, when it came to Samuel or the house, she would do whatever she had to do, including running out onto burning battlefields, taking fucking Heartsbane to the face.
Tragic that word.
Yes.
That
Similarity.
one. That one, yes. Similarities between Miri and Mara is they gave themselves entirely to men.
Yeah.
Alive or dead. Everything they did was in service to
Don't recommend it.
No.
Don't do it.
The thing is, not even just to men, but
apart from Enzo, maybe like all of us were living for somebody else, right?
Yeah, I guess because you definitely like very much like Miria had the baggage of the dead dad, you know, hanging over you.
Dad baggage.
I like that though was always based in not that any of these women were, you know, foolish in the sense of that they, you know, they did what they did in service to the men in their lives in a very like, we're super oppressed and men rule everything way. It was very much a conscious choice they all made of like, this is a person I care about and I will die for them if that's what it takes. Like a very, very conscious choice that is probably a sign of their privilege as well, because no other, you know, if you want a noble women in Westeros don't have a bunch of rights and freedoms anyway, and all of them, you know, manage to either take that power for themselves in the case of like Faye and Miria, or in Mara's case, you know, she's lucky enough that Samuel gives her that power. He doesn't try to stop her from wielding this power that comes with her position as much as he can. And that's like almost the horrible thing is that they all choose to do this because these men in their lives have been able to help them get that power and have treated them that way. And it all ultimately ends in, apart from maybe Faye, in their demise. But even maybe so for Faye, in that, you know, we don't know if Faye really wins at the end of the show or not. It's sad for all of them.
Yeah, Faye,
they all should have made better
has a man
choices.
in her life that's supportive but not pushy. He's just like, all right, you do you, boo. I'm gonna be over here doing my thing.
Just gonna be over here torturing men for you.
Supportive.
So, well, yes, selectively supportive.
Very far away.
He tortures for her. He sails boats for her up rivers that aren't meant to be sailed for.
I would like to think that they could torture Costain together. That's my headcanon.
Yeah,
They'll
that's
track him down and get him in the basement. That's
Date number
their
4.
honeymoon.
Yeah.
I can imagine him in a I can imagine that if Miria and Harris had both survived, they would have had a very similar relationship in that Miria herself wouldn't have been in the shadow of Harris's power, and that there would have been that kind of arrangement between the two of them, that like we're both equals in this, very much the way that, you know, Enzo and Faye have got and Mara and Samuel had. Like, so one thing all the women in this campaign did right was like establishing their own power, even if it came from somebody else, and choosing people to be close to and care about who respected that. We did one thing right, friends.
Yeah, I like to imagine that if Miria had lived, right, if the campaign hadn't gone, she would have been very much like Mama Ironwood, like at the end, you know, she's still going, still very sharp, still like, shit's got to be in fucking order. I'm going to run this house until I'm run into the fucking ground, because it's just the kind of person Miria is. Like, she didn't have that off switch because she was never allowed to have an off switch, which is why, like, we didn't see a lot of their relationship on screen, but like Miri and Harris, when she was with Harris, she wasn't having to be the Lady Ironwood. She wasn't having to lead an army. She could just be a teenage girl with a crush on a boy. And she really relished those moments because that were like normality. She had a couple of moments of normality with him, which is why she fell so fucking hard for him. And then, you know, got Perginate.
Uncle's happened.
So you did it the wrong way round.
Pregananant.
You should have done Amara and Samuel and just had parties all of the time.
Preganant.
That would absolutely be her Google search if Google was the thing in Westeros. Can be Pergananan. 2 gods slept with. This is Mara. God slept with.
I'd like to imagine
the way the asshole. My husband asked me to get pregnant to keep the house, but it turns out he lived. Am I the asshole?
I like to imagine the way Miria figured it out was like she was in the solar Ironwood and she's going over like all these fucking records and shit that Horatio didn't fuck with, and she's like there chatting to the Maester, and then she's like, "Hang on, what month is it?" And the Maester's like, "Oh, it's," and she's like, "Oh fuck, shit." Fuck. You know, she just has that moment where she's like, oh, and it's like that tunnel vision, like I like to imagine that's how she figured it out. But yeah, oh, so sad. But yeah, that was a fun thing because she had been so angry, so like on the go, just to have those moments where she could be like, oh, I can't flirt, because she could not, and neither could Harris. Like every scene where those scenes, they were fun, but like looking back on it, I'm like, Jesus Christ, Miria,
absolute disaster.
I'm embarrassed for them on some level.
The secondhand cringe I got from her, because much like everybody else in this thing, like when we play our characters, often they just speak without me thinking about it. Right, Miria just comes out, and then she'll say something. I'm like, ugh. Susie, in the back of my head, will be like, oh fucking hell. Jesus. Oh god. So yeah, that house actions, that was just supposed to be a house action. Sam, moving troops, thanks for that.
Yeah, we had a bit of that, didn't we?
Yeah,
it was just meant to
when
be
it was just
house actions.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I'm trying to like speed run through these season 6 because I'm very conscious of time. So we had that, and then I mean, obviously we can't talk about like every fucking juicy scene, but like literally every interaction we had in this season was a juicy one, whether it was between fucking Faye and Mara with their like low-key, high-key, I fucking hate you, bitch. Yeah, I know I hate you too, but I'm fucking... And, you know, Faye being like, Samuel, stop being a dickhead. And he's like, I can't stop being a dickhead. Give me your army. And she's like, please stop being a dickhead. Give me your army. Stop it. Give me your army. Enzo, Faye, I love you, but I can't be anywhere near you. I don't know, I'm doing finger puppets.
This is great.
You got to keep going now. You started a convention. Don't break your convention, Susie.
I know we're conscious of time, but I do have a question for the group.
Yes.
In the Muppets version of After the Fyre, who is the human?
Oh, who is the human?
You know what?
Neither wants to say Miria.
I think it's Miria.
It's Miria.
Yeah.
Because she's the most like fucking...
I think Miria is legitimately like the most level-headed out of everyone, like on balance. Because you've got like Faye, who is so far into duty and honor that it completely disrupts like her personal life. Mara and Samuel just not even on the books of sensible anywhere. Enzo's a pirate and nobody knows anything about him. You know, like Marcia got pushed in with the Targaryens, you know, for various reasons. And I just feel like out of at least all of the living characters for the end of this season, Miria is the most like a balance of honor, but also tries to have this personal life and does have some conspiracy, but maybe kind of for the right reasons. And just has to deal with everyone else being an absolute train wreck.
I think it's either Miria or it's Faye, I think, in the last couple of seasons.
Yeah.
Do you know what it would be? So if it's Miria, it's played extremely straight like Michael Caine, Muppets Christmas Carol.
Yes.
Not even even a thought that these are puppets around it. If it's Faye, it's a little bit Treasure Island.
Alternative idea that takes it to a dark place. It's Alistair, and this is all a horrible hallucination.
Oh, now that would be brutal.
Yeah. Wow. I think it's got to be one of the player characters, though.
Yeah. If we'd seen more of Simon would have been the perfect human.
Simon would have been the human, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, very quickly then. If Miria is the human, who plays Mara? I'm just going to go around.
Miss Piggy.
Yes, absolutely yes. So Samuel is Kermit?
Yes, it'd have to be, wouldn't he?
Who's the most violent Muppet?
It's the dude that plays the drums, right?
Animal.
Yeah.
No, but it's not
like
animal. Do you know who I thought? Who's the Blue Eagle? Is his name Samuel as well?
Samuel.
I need to look up
Samuel the Blue Eagle, right?
Me neither.
I don't know the Muppets well enough, except for I know Uncle Deadly, and Costain is Uncle Deadly.
Who's
That's
Uncle
my
Deadly?
contribution. He's like the tentacle mouth villain, the purple one who's like always like mwahaha all the time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's Costain.
You could make an argument for Samuel as Kermit, though. There's something about the way Kermit's like Muppet face looks. It's just like, oh, kind of adorable, but there's something dark back there.
Yeah, I reckon Kermit could be a proper dickhead.
Like really lighthearted, but you also feel like Kermit might find you in your sleep and murder you with a knife.
No, sorry, it wasn't Samuel. Oliver is Sam the Eagle.
Yes.
Oliver is absolutely Sam the Eagle.
Yeah.
I think so.
I think Simon and Briar are Statler and Waldorf.
Yes. Yes.
They both are bad.
Who was I thinking for Gonzo is Enzo, right?
Yeah, I can see. Yeah. I mean, he's
maybe.
Who the hell is Faye?
Who's Faye?
I think Faye. Oh God, that is difficult, isn't it?
So it's got to be Faye. Has got to be the human. Because I can't think
there
of
aren't really that many female Muppets, to be honest.
No, I was thinking of what type of like. I don't know.
Faye would be her own Muppet then, right?
Yeah. They would make a Muppet.
They would make a Muppet for Faye.
Yolanda the Rat. There we go.
Who would Miria be?
So you sound less bad, but in the actual Muppet movies, Yolanda tends to be the one kind of like that's somewhat more sensible than all the others.
And all the spy
You know.
networks, you know,
have to
all
Google
this
this
going
now.
around.
True.
Yeah,
True.
I can see it.
True. All right, yeah.
He's
All
not.
right, yeah. If Miria was a
Oh,
Muppet, which one
London
would she
Rat.
be?
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm.
I had to look at Google for that.
Miria would be Pepe the shrimp,
What?
the criminal shrimp.
Yeah, there are like 2 female Muppets, Miss
Uh-huh.
Piggy
Yeah, there
and then
are.
the girl from the band.
Yeah.
I mean,
There's
Miri would
not
be the girl
many.
from the band, right?
Angsty teen rocker.
You don't understand. Nobody understands her pain. Ugh.
There's even an article that is literally titled "The Top 5-ish Female Muppets."
Yeah. Yeah.
God damn it,
Like the
Muppets.
Fucking
It's
barrel
2022.
there.
Sort your shit out.
Yeah.
Ah,
All right.
right. So,
Sorry.
no, that was a good sidebar. I enjoyed
Muppet
that one a
talk.
lot. All right. What else did we have? Season 6. We had Battle for the Boneway. Never been more stressed out my entire fucking life. I was legitimately, for a couple of days before that, like I was sat down with Tom and James in a Discord call, and I was like, how the fuck do I win? How the fuck do I do this? I'm not going to be able to do this. And then Millie's there coaching me with guerrilla warfare tactics. She's like, fucking, right, what you're going to do is you want to build pits. You want fire, you want smoke, you want tar.
Look, I get really into shit like this, okay?
I think.
Love it.
I think we came up with the idea that the only possible way you could kill him was with the poison, and you had to be incredibly lucky.
Yeah,
I think that's the
because-
conclusion we came to.
Yeah.
The way we were thinking about it was you had to think like desert animals. Like, how did they trap their prey? How did they do things? You got
Yeah.
stuff coming up from the ground and setting
Yeah.
fire to things and use your...
Yeah, we very much
there
had
are a lot
that.
of poisonous desert things.
Well, it was how the Dornish fought the original Targaryens, right?
Yeah.
They used guerrilla tactics. They were asymmetrical warfare, fucking popping out of the sand and like and then fucking off again. But I do remember distinctly that I had a couple of destiny points and we were talking about how I could invest them into benefits and stuff. And I remember going, Sam, can I take this benefit? She's like, no, that's bullshit. You can't. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh.
Was I? Okay. That sounds like me.
Which benefit was
no.
it?
It was to do with some of like the fighting stuff. It was like expertise or something like that in one of the weapons, and it would have just like upped my damage a little bit or something like that. But as it turned out, all it cost me was my actual real life firstborn child.
Yeah.
Whenever they may appear, they're going to be roll 20's problem.
Congratulations, roll 20.
Worth it.
Yeah,
Worth
worth
it.
it.
That was
It's probably going to be the
5/6's
Antichrist
roll,
anyway.
right?
It was 5 6s.
5 6s.
Only happened twice.
Yeah. I genuinely couldn't believe it. I was so stressed out and so tense that entire episode. And Sam's like, she's trying to like give me like, I'll come in with some cool fighting descriptions. And I'm like, my brain's going, okay, I'm trying to think like 6 moves ahead. So I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm just gonna do some sand maneuvers and fucking blah. And then I'm going, and then the actual fight with Maekar started. And I remember for like a week I'd been in the shower, like, I'm washing my hair and I'm like thinking of the fucking speeches I'm gonna give Maekar about the fucking, like, I'm gonna call him out on all his fucking bullshit. I'm gonna be like, hey, do you remember me? I'm that little fucking girl that you fucking, all this shit. And it came down to it. Myself and Miriam had none of it in her because he was there and he was like 6'5" and he had a big fucking mace and he was waiting for her on the field. And she was just like, I'm just gonna level my spirit challenge and we're just doing it. But that was a fucking close battle.
That was another one where because we wanted to focus on the more personal perspective, I got to roll the outcome of that battle beforehand. Although we rolled it, right? Because you rolled your warfare roll and I rolled Maekar's warfare roll in secret. And I think we revealed this already, that like you got the same result. So it was basically a stalemate. But because you had that personal perspective and you fought Maekar, you managed to kill him. But basically both sides just smushed against each other and just like evaporated because of that.
It was a meat grinder. Like, it was a victory
Out
for
and out.
Blackfyre, but it was a Pyrrhic victory. There was no good time there. Each side took horrendous losses, but the way you GM'd that whole session, Sam, was fucking incredible. Like, the tension was just, hang on, I gotta hit a button really quick. Tension. The tension.
I forgot we'd made that button.
The tension was really fucking there the whole time.
Yeah.
So good. And getting to like have that moment where I killed fucking Maekar was pretty tight. It was one of the wins that Miria got in the whole campaign, taking out Maekar Targaryen. Even if I did then immediately get shot by Bloodraven. But no, it was good. It was the beginning of the end, but it was good.
Yeah.
No. Whew.
I cheered.
Right, okay. Go on, Tom.
Oh, I just said I cheered. I was very happy.
I legit wanted to do a lap of my room like a fucking football player scoring a goal. I wanted to like fucking t-shirt over the head like afterwards. But no, what I did is I looked at Justin, my husband, and I was just like, I won. I did it. He's like, are you okay? I'm like, I think so. Oh, also, by the way, I just bought our firstborn child. I hope you don't mind. And he was like, yeah, all right, gotta do what you gotta do.
He gets it.
He gets it. What did killing Maekar cost Miria? Everything. Because then it put her on Bloodraven's shit list. And he was right there and he didn't leave.
Yeah, so what are you going to do with like 20 boys who are already good archers and a vendetta? You're just going to skulk around the Boneway until someone...
Just going to wait. I'm just going to wait. But yeah, okay, so that happened. And then zoom in. Tom found the boy. Tom tortures boy. Sam, do you want to reveal a little bit about what you told me about the torture?
Yeah, I don't know if this ever really came up, but like I could see it possibly happening where you've like done the tortury stuff. We said we would like veil that, and then there's always the case, like particularly like other tabletop games or tabletop players will come and be like, oh, can I just get like one more insight check or like one more just to see if I can figure anything else out or get more of a read on them. And I said to Susie, because we've met various studies and stuff have like proved this kind of thing, I was basically going to say no, because you've tortured him. He's going to say whatever you want him to say, and he's going to just stick to his line. So you can't gain some insight or empathy from him because you can't get that out of him. So you've got to decide whether you believe what he says or not. So that was kind of my thing for the torture.
Yeah, and it was a reason why Enzo stopped, because I think he realized that he broke him, and he wasn't going to get anything more out of him. So I think he chose to believe it. I think Enzo genuinely did choose to believe that was kind of like that information was true. And I decided, so I didn't do this at this point, but I decided I wanted to weave that into some backstory for Enzo as well. It was just kind of like a spur of the moment kind of thing. Because I mean, he was a pirate. He kind of talked the big talk about, oh yeah, I can get information, but I never actually really imagined him actually torturing anyone, right? I never, because he just didn't seem like that pirate to him. So I thought, well, if he hasn't tortured someone, what if he was the one who was tortured? So he knows it works. So that's how I spun it. And that's how he learned how to torture, because he had everything done to him, except that he decided to give up a lot sooner than the person he was torturing did, because he couldn't take it anymore. So I just decided to add a little bit of backstory into Enzo because of that. And I thought it fit. I thought it fitted, and it kind of like, and even in it, Enzo's got a bit of like PTSD over it. So he didn't want to do it, but Face asked, and he went, right, fine, I'll do it. He really didn't like it. He really didn't like it at all. He hid it, but he really didn't like it. And then he did the only thing that he thought the most merciful thing. That's all he wanted when he was being tortured, for someone to do the most merciful thing, was just to kill him. So he did. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, if he carried on, what was he going to get out of him? Like, it's not like Elenya Tyrell sat him down and went, "Look, here's my exact plan.
Well,
so I need you to go and get."
I mean, technically, Enzo could have stopped there, right? He could have stopped when he first said Elenya did this and that. But he wanted to be thorough. And he wanted to make sure the information he gave, because this is big. This is like, this could ruin Faye if this was wrong, right? This could ruin entire houses. So he wanted to make damn sure that what he was saying was true. And he stuck to the line. And so in Enzo's mind, it was absolutely 100% true. Yeah.
I think he was also... I think he was quite forthcoming with the information quite early, wasn't he?
Yes, he was.
And I did that on purpose, because when you ask people stuff, they tend to tell you.
Yeah.
And sometimes I feel like it can be a little bit cliched for it to be like, you know, that struggle of, oh, I'm not going to tell you, or, you know, or I don't know, or whatever. And then reveal it later. But I mean, maybe this is the really bitter thing, I guess, Tom, for Enzo, kind of knowing it now in the meta, is that he'd just told the truth all along.
Yeah, that's it. So he didn't really need to torture them. And to make it even worse, I reckon Enzo believed him the first time he said it, but he had to make sure, and so he went on, which makes it a bit more
for love,
bit more tragic. Yes, so it made it a bit more tragic on kind of like Enzo's side, but hey, you got to do what you got to do.
It's Westeros, and we all played terrible people.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed all of Enzo's sort of side ventures this final season. I was hoping that I like a checklist. I wanted to get a chance to have another scene with like every other character, but I still I loved watching all of that and imagining like how it was all going to weave back in when Enzo finally showed back up again. I was super happy with how all of that played out. You got your ship. I didn't even know if the ship was real.
No one did.
Yeah,
not even Sam.
I really enjoyed it.
It's not real.
Yeah. Well, actually, funny enough, it all went back to, so originally he was in Westeros to get money for his ship to be repaired, right? And I didn't even imagine him getting his ship back, because, I mean, for him, he would have just got the ship and go, right? And then that's me out of the thing. So I wasn't even thinking that until we were coming to the final few episodes. And I just went to Sam. Sam, can I just have my ship? I just want my ship. I think I asked for my ship the previous season. I think I sent the letter, didn't I? To King's Landing, because everyone was thinking. Because I said to everyone, I'm sending a letter to King's Landing, and everyone was, you know, I know people were saying, who the hell is he sending the letter to? Who's sending this? It was just to get the Sapphire back in those shores. So at the time, so he could get the hell out of Dodge if it got too hairy. So he could just jump on his ship and just go. And it's because, and the reason it got repaired was because Marcia gave him the funds to do it. She promised him she'd pay to have his ship repaired when she offered for him to become an actual member of Greenmont, which he refused because he didn't want to get into politics. But that's how he got his ship, because the problem was he was spending all the money he was keeping. He would never have kept enough to repair the Sapphire, because he was just spending it all.
I totally thought until the ship finally showed up, I totally thought that Enzo was a spy for the crown, for either Maekar or Baelor. That's what I thought the entire time, because of how he's been introduced as well.
Yeah, I 100% thought you were a spy too. And then you're like, oh, I'm going to send a letter to King's Landing. I'm like, oh, I fucking bet you are. You fucking Targaryen loyalist bitch. Like,
I thought the same right at the start when Enzo first came in, because of all the connections to the crown and like being placed at Greenmont and how close he grew to Marcia. I think that though by what solidified it for me, and I think Mara as well, that Enzo wasn't sus, was that he didn't tell anybody that Samuel and Mara showed up to the ball. He did actually kind of keep his word when we were like, please don't tell Marcia we're here because we're not supposed to be.
So I'll be honest. Enzo did it not to any loyalty or anything. He was just a messy bitch who wanted to see a scene. He just wanted to see a scene. He didn't think a ball would have been good without some drama. And he wanted to see that. That's
bitch, that was my engagement ball. That was my announcement ball. You fucking ruined it.
He just wanted to see drama and be entertained.
Didn't Enzo come drinking with us at the end?
Yes.
Yeah, afterwards.
And then there was the point where like things got really awkward because Enzo showed up and was like, Mara, I will get you and Samuel to cross the narrow sea. You can go live your life. Just forget all of this.
Yeah. So that wasn't a friendly thing. That was essentially
that was for Marcia.
That was for Marcia. That was you're trying to, and Enzo's very close to Marcia. He sees her as essentially family. And he thought, well, these two just want to be happy together. I can make them be happy together. I can put them on the ship and I can send them off and they can live happily ever after. Because in his mind, they were never going to get the happy. They were never going to get married because she was still married. It was very complicated. It was very icky. And I just thought, I knew it was never going to happen. But Enzo, in his logic and thought, he thought, well, if I offer them an out, not only can they go off in the sunset and be happy, but then Marcia will be fine. There's no need for a trial. There's no need for everything. Everyone wins, kind of thing. And that was his thinking. That was just his thinking when he
Mara really liked Enzo. Like, Mara was quite happy when Enzo kind of showed up at the camp. There was that whole thing of like everyone being like, oh my God, people. And Mara's like, this is Enzo. What are you? I don't see what the problem is. We have wine. Do you want wine like the good old days?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. She never held it. She never held it against Enzo with all the stuff with Marcia either. But
yeah,
I can't believe that he got the ship and only Faye got to see it
in all its glory.
Not through one of trying.
You could have seen it if you went with them, but you chose not to.
Briefly.
Oh yeah, Tom. Now the campaign's over.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell them about the secondary offer to escort them and help them escape?
So yes, okay. So this is going to sound awful, very very bad. Is. But there was a plan, right, for Enzo and for Mara and Samuel. So the plan was at the end of the battle, if he was going to find Mara or Samuel, he was going to offer them, you can go on the ship if you want to. This is again, I'm giving you the offer for an escape, right? But you were probably never leaving that ship. He would have killed both of you and threw you over the side because of what you did to Miria, Marcia, and House Greenmont.
Oh, not even for what we did to Faye. We're planning to do for
not
Faye.
So much to Faye, because I think Enzo thought Faye put herself in that situation. She chose to be there. She can handle it. In Enzo's
not
mind,
the hostage.
Faye can handle it.
The bit where Mara was like, yeah, so we basically told this other house that for their armies, we'd give them Faye's land without any right to do so.
Yeah, that was a little... Yeah, I mean, he immediately told Faye of that. I mean, when he said, don't tell him, okay, I won't tell him. Okay, so Faye, this is what she said. Like, almost immediately.
In the long term, I don't think Mara will care that Faye knows now. It was just a please don't tell her right this second after I've told you.
Well, she's in archery range.
Yeah, well, while she's in range with a weapon. I know I have guards, but I'm only 50-50 about how far that'll get me.
Yeah. So it was going to be, so essentially, I again, this was like, I don't think it would have ever happened. This was if you got on my ship, which I was very, very unlikely. But because of what you did with House Greenmont, which he very much close to his heart, as well with Marty. He loved Marty as like a family member. He was probably going to kill you both. Either that, or if he only got Mara, he was going to ship her back to House Greenmont so Marty could finish what she started. But two of them together, he would have killed them like immediately, like on the ship in the middle of the ocean, and dumped them over the side.
It's very fair.
You know. I mean, but the thing was, it wasn't anything against us you two. You know, he didn't care so much. He didn't hate you two. It was just doing it for Martia and Miria. Yeah,
would have been fair.
Yeah,
because again, you didn't really see it much on screen, but Miria and Enzo were like besties.
They were very that was
very close. Which is why she was like, "Hey Enzo, I'm gonna just sneak into this tournament. Can you can you sort it out for me?" He's like, "What?"
Yeah, that was it. So yeah, it was very much like they were very close friends for 5 years, and it would like for 5 solid years they were really close.
I think we came up with like a little story thing that like Enzo got Miria like dancing again because after Oliver had died, she just wouldn't do it. Like because she and Oliver used to dance, you know, that was like their thing. And she just wouldn't do it anymore. And then Enzo just eventually fucking wore it down and was like, look, fucking snap out of it.
That was it. I think Marcia did a fanfic of it where they were all preparing to dance for the big dance. And Enzo was there to teach them all. So he's teaching Bryn. But then he insisted that Marcia dance as well, and with the dancing with Miria, I think we said we incorporated it into your fighting. It was
like fighting,
because that's how Enzo fought. He was a water dancer. He would all be pirouetting and on his feet and dodging and stuff. That's why he could get his combat defense up to 24. It was fucking disgusting. Never got a chance. Well, no, I did, but yeah. But yeah, it was all about dancing and stuff, and I think it fit well into Miria's fighting style as well, which really fit well into.
We basically invented capoeira,
pretty much
for Westeros.
Pretty much, yeah.
As a note, we say a lot in this of like it never happened on screen. If anyone in chat doesn't know, there's a wiki where we have all written an absolutely insane amount of fan fiction about our characters of things that have like happened between scenes in the show or like exposition about those scenes. So if you just want more ATF story and absolutely unhinged drama, you should go look at the wiki and just read through all of those.
Yeah, there's also the letters from Raven's channel on the BCG Discord where we posted a lot of them too in there. I just remembered when I wrote like right at the start of the campaign about Miria and Harris, and I was like
was it the really sweet one where like they were happy for a moment? Was it that one?
So the like Miria like escaped from Joy, the little ward who was fucking crying. She's just in the gardens like vibing, and then Harris comes along and he like plucks a little forget-me-not and he puts it in her hair, and then they're all like, oh well, we gotta keep room for the 7, and then they go get lemon cakes, and it was sweet. But yeah, anyway, so talking about heartbreak, let's just zoom right to the end because we could sit here and we could talk about the actual events of the campaign all freaking day. But it ends, there's a battle at Highgarden. Harris in the last minute, influenced by a letter telling him he's going to be a dad, and Faye telling him like, look, you can't fucking trust Samuel, like you fucking watch out, like, you know, you've got stuff to live for. Harris puts his little foot down and changes the battle plan at the last minute. Samuel is not happy about it. And instead of, you know, following the plan, breaks ranks to go after Baelor, but instead gets to Gwen Corbury because Baelor does the sensible thing and he goes, whoa, actually, fuck this. I don't want to die. And retreats. And so that was a really tight fucking fight, though, between Corbury and Samuel.
Yeah. I think it was it was like 3 hit points or something. away from defeating Samwell. I think Corbray was the toughest. I fought some knights throughout the campaign with different characters. Corbray was definitely the toughest enemy, martial enemy that I fought in the campaign, that I faced in the campaign on any of my characters. And what I loved about that scene was, like, not only was Samwell not doing what he was supposed to, like, he ordered all of his men, which is like half or more of the army that they had, to basically hold this hill, because they had the siege army, they had the siege equipment there. And like, we're not going into the vanguard. We're not going to be the ones who go down to the meat grinder. We're going to make them come up to us. And that seemed to be working at first. And so he was like, all right, this is working good. I think I can get to Baelor. So he rides down, and, some of his knights are with him for a while, and then he breaks away. I think he had to fight first. He had to fight Sir Gawain Oakheart.
That's right,
who they'd, kind of bumped shoulders a few times throughout the campaign. And that ended brutally. And then he fought, he went after Baelor, and I never thought that I could take on Baelor and Corbray at the same time with Samwell. Like, I didn't think that was a winning venture, but I really wanted to see, and it's like I wasn't going to get another shot. And Samwell wanted to see too. And for most of the campaign, very rarely have we actually seen Samwell do combat in the campaign, like a lot less than my previous characters. He's trying to use words and, be smart as much as he can. But this is the first time I think we got to see like a prolonged like combat that wasn't the sort of tournament stuff we'd seen before. And Corbray was tough. And Baelor came after him too. Like, Baelor did get a hit on him before Baelor ran away. And I think he had to, there was an entire unit of elite Targaryen soldiers attacking him at the same time. Like, it was a pretty rough scenario. It was fun though. I love the way that it was narrated. That was one of my favorite battles I think we've done in the campaign.
You held your own as well. So you say you were worried, but like...
I think Oliver would have been a stronger character mechanically in that situation, that specific situation, where it's not one-on-one. But it was fun, and I was, I'm always, I'll always do everything I can to mechanically and narratively to not die. But I'm almost like rooting for somebody to get, especially Samwell, because he had deserved it. I was almost rooting for somebody to get him.
I mean, ultimately, he did get it.
He did. He
did get it. Baelor executed him. That scene, though, that whole scene within the tent with Baelor, and he's just like, give me a reason to spare your lives. Just give me one fucking reason. You guys are coming up with your reasons for rebelling, for doing treasons. And he's just like, it's not good enough. It's not fucking good enough. And I feel like Baelor has this reputation, right? He's Baelor the good. He's the merciful one. He's also still a Targaryen.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can't get rid of his Targaryenness. And there's mercy, and then there's being a fucking idiot. And mercy was what happened the first time, where with the houses, he's like, all right, we will be lenient, mostly lenient. Sort your shit out. Don't do this again. If you do it again, that's it. And then we did it again, and that's it. Like, you can't expect the same treatment that you got the first time around, because otherwise everyone's just going to keep doing it until something, until the Targaryens are deposed. They have to, at some point, put it down. And I mean, I'm team Blackfyre. Well, I'm team fuck authority, to be honest. Fuck the crown in general.
Yeah. But
I do understand why Baelor was like, no, I can't just let you. I can't give you the 2 years you're asking for an heir. I'm not even going to send you to the fucking wall, because I can't trust that you're not going to be a dickhead on the wall. So just to, cut the head off the snake while it's here. And hopefully, you see Tarly seems to be the biggest agitator here. We're done.
And that was my approach to the intrigue too. It was, once burnt, twice shy kind of situation.
Yeah.
I like that Baelor still lives up to that kind of merciful nature, though, even at the end. Because when it's really, really clear that like there's no getting out of this, Mara, he's like, any last words? And Mara's like, if you can't grant me the mercy of giving him his life, can we at least have this in private? Can we not turn this, like, you've already won, It doesn't matter whether you kill him in front of all of these people and everyone sees it or not, it's going to have the same effect. So can we at least have privacy in this last moment? And like, I think that's the only piece Mara gets out of it. And the only bit of her that is grateful towards Baelor is that he grants the both of them that privacy, and Samwell's death doesn't become a spectacle visually to a bunch of people. A load of people get to walk away and say they were there when he was, when the traitor was executed, but nobody got to kind of point and jeer and laugh at that, the worst moment for the both of them ever. And so like, even weirdly still, Baelor is still kind of living up to that merciful nature, even though fuck that dude because he's a Targaryen, but
And
Yeah, but
until
also
he
he's
rolled
Baelor.
in and he like decapitated Samwell into your lap. Which I love.
He only goes so far.
Yeah.
I've got to get a job done. I've got a war to win.
It's enough of that.
I started writing a really heartbreaking fic from Mara's point of view of that whole progression of events. And the way that I imagined it, she never opens her eyes. She never sees Samwell's body. She knows it's happened. And it's not until like after he's been taken away and everyone's gone that she even looks. Like, I think a bit of her was probably hoping that sword came for her too, but it didn't, because life is not that just.
I really enjoyed that final episode, that final session a lot. The only time I ever really think about what my character, like try to pre-plan anything, is if like there's a complicated scheme or something that I need to figure out because there's so many different variables. Other than that, I try to like, 5 minutes before we play, I try to like sit down, I look at my character, any notes that I have, I'm like, all right, we'll just see what happens. And when I sat down before the final session, I knew just mathematically that unless like I got a couple of donations or something like that, that Samwell was going to die. The next time he rolled endurance, he would have rolled a -4, no matter what. So I knew he was going to die before that. And I was like, he doesn't know that. And he still has one chance to like not make things right, but maybe save his house, maybe save some other houses, maybe actually protect the Reach. Like he has a chance to, and if he's lucky, maybe he can join the Kingsguard, or maybe he can go to the Wall and still have an heir. And so he's going to try it as hard as he can. He's going to try it. But I like right before the session, I was like, yeah, but he is almost dead. And I had this idea to kind of lean into this idea that he was like in and out of, coherency, that he didn't know when he was or where he was because he was so dehydrated and so delirious. And that made all of that a lot more fun for me to play out, because I feel bad. This sounds awful, but like there are moments where like Mara was trying to connect to him in that session, or the NPCs even, where that was a moment where I was like, but he's not there. He's somewhere else. That was really fun to play.
I loved that. I think it was a really cool choice.
I like the fact that at the very final moment of Mara and Samwell being together, he's not there. He's that scared little boy who people are taunting him about being the butcher, and his father. And he's not even in that final moment where they're together. He's not. And that's just kind of like a gut punch kind of thing.
Worse for Mara as well, because she knows he's not there, because she's seen this on the way here of him like not quite talking about things that like, oh, we'll go find my father, and she's like, you do remember what happened. She knows that he is like physically and mentally wrecked right now, and it's part of the reason, like, when he starts going on about saddle the horses after killing Alistair, and she's like, do not listen to a word this man has said. Look at him and tell me that he can give any kind of command. And later on, when it's like, okay, when we get there, do me a favor, let me start the talking, because I don't like, she's looking at him like trying to do it of like, I can, I'm good at this, but really deep down she's like, you're not all together here. Like you're remembering, you're forgetting things that have happened. You're like 3 months back in your mind right now. This is going to go disastrously. It's part of the reason she doesn't, like, at the end, doesn't keep trying to beg Baelor, because she's looking at Samwell like, he's probably, even if he's not executed, he's going to be dead in a week from fever and infection and these injuries. This is almost kinder than like letting him live a week delirious completely unaware of himself. Like it's horrible.
Imagine if in his last moments he called out the wrong name, like Faye or Alistair. That would have been like the real
if
fucking...
he called out Alistair.
I thought about it.
I do love the fact, though, way earlier on, back when Mara and Samuel's kind of relationship was first really forming on screen, everybody was like, they're going to betray each other. They're going to betray each other. They're going to stab each other in the back. And it never really happened. Like, it's the one thing I'm proud of, like, at least somebody kept that. One of us kept our word somewhere to somebody we cared about. Like,
okay, so we have a bunch of questions that we should fire through. Fire, did you get it? Okay. They all come from Discord, so I will zoom through them as quickly as I can. But what was everyone's favorite moment in the campaign? Which might be really hard because again, 3 years worth of game. I think me and Tom were talking about this. My favorite moment, one of my favorite moments, because there's so fucking many of them, was when Miria threw the wine in Horatio's face. It was such just like a little fuck you moment. And then it really just sort of like accelerated her storyline because she had been beyond her little outburst when Pepper Ironwood died. She'd been playing the long game at Ironwood. You know, she'd been really like finding the evidence, trying to convince Mama Ironwood that her son was a piece of shit. She was waiting for Oliver to come home. Turns out, you know, that wasn't ever going to happen. But, you know, she had been biding her time and she'd been building up this little internal rebellion. And then she just saw red in that moment. And I feel like that was like her Dornish heritage coming out, you know, like where she's like, I'm not fucking having this. Wham. And then, you know, that's how it went.
For me, I've got one generally and then two for the characters I made. So the one general one that really sticks in my mind was Marzia and Mako with Greg. That they're there. That was just so beautifully done, and that really sticks in my mind. That was great. For Alfred, one of the moments that stick with me is when he first discovered he was a bastard, when he was talking to Don on the Bridge of Many Scenes. That was really good. I think at that minute, it can't, because for the longest time, I struggled to see what Alfred was going to be. And then I decided to take it that way. And I thought, okay, let's go with this and see where it goes. It was that. And for Enzo, it was the barge date with Faye, where they just sat down and just chatted. And yeah, that's it. I quite like chatting scenes. I think that's where most of the things come from. I quite like, you know, intrigue and chatty scenes. It doesn't even need to be intrigue, just chatting. I think that's my favorite. Yeah.
I think mine is probably not even for like the gameplay reasons, but Mara and Samuel's first wedding at the Godswood. Because so much of that was like up in the air. I'd messaged Dom beforehand being like, would you be comfortable if we play this out? Like, is this a direction we're comfortable in these characters' relationship progressing? Because up until then, it had been like, nothing had really been properly kind of said, but a bit. And we decided to like play that out on stream. So I had no idea what Samuel's, you know, was going to go ahead and do when Mara said that. And it wasn't even for the fact that, you know, it's great because Samuel says yes, and there's this really beautiful moment. It's watching everyone else's face because we hadn't told anyone. We didn't tell Sam. And just it's amazing because I think there's like you and Charlie being like, oh my God, Sam is like, what is happening? And Tom is just laughing his head off. Like if you go back to the still, it's a beautiful meta moment. And I remember Sam like putting in a thing, I'm like, give me a second, I don't have the wedding vows. I'm like, no, it's fine, I looked these up, I was prepared. Like I came prepared for this scene in case it went well. So like my favorite there, I think probably my favorite, like a really in character moment, aside from the wedding, because that was also pretty good in character, was that argument at the end between Miria and Mara. Because I think it's the most honest that Mara is with anybody that she's hurt in the entire campaign all the way through. And is honest about the pain that, not that she's caused, but also the pain that she legitimately feels for what she's done. And like Miria, it's the most honest Miria ever is as well about the same thing. And it's just two people just throwing their grief at each other, desperately hoping that somehow doing that will fix it. And it making it worse. It's horrible and it's beautiful and it's great, and that sticks in my mind as like a big terrible wonderful scene.
For me, it was, I really love the Enzo Barge scene. I think for me, it's a toss-up between the drinking game on the hill, just because that was just such an intricate web that just kind of worked at the last minute, and that was a lot of fun to play with. But also a much smaller one, the little chat she had with Gawain Oakhart, where she's basically like, Mara's not worth it. And just such a simple, small conversation, how that had such a knock-on effect for so many different things. I think that's the nub of how Fae works. It's like these tiny little tweaks to how people think, and then just set them off doing what they do. I love that basically meant that the wedding went ahead, and all the shit that went on after that, like just from a little, by the way, this, off you go. Yeah, I love the subtle stuff like that.
Don, you got one?
Yeah, it's hard to pick one. It's really hard, right? I think for Oliver, Sir Oliver, the bridge scenes, both the scene with Alfred, but also there's the bridge scene with Marcia that Oliver had, that sent him after Miria to go find and rescue Miria and bring her back. Those scenes really stuck with me. And I got to also say after Oliver died, the dream sequence that I played out with Miria, I loved that too. And for a man with no name, I really enjoyed the kind of like brotherly scenes. There's a few of them. There's one with a barge merchant with Alfred and Briar. That was just really, really fun. And I liked that energy a lot that they had while they were on the road, before things took a darker turn. But like that energy was a lot of fun, something we hadn't seen a lot throughout the campaign. But it's a staple for Game of Thrones. I feel like you have those three dudes on the road, camping it out. And for Samuel, I would say it's really tough to pick one, because there were so many little intrigues that like really they all mean more when you put them together as a whole. But I loved the bridge scene, or not the bridge scene, the hill scene. I thought that was such a, like you said, a nuanced, intricate sort of dance that they had with like really high stakes in the background and this battle in the background. And it was totally different than kind of how we'd seen them interact previously. It was the culmination of previous scenes. I love that. And I also really enjoyed the actual red bedding and the wedding of Samuel and Mara, when we had this plan for a long time. And this is one of the things that we had actually talked about ahead of time, because it was so it was kind of such a high concept thing. And all of the little moments where Samuel got to interact with Mara and Faye, and then the NPCs, and how like that all kind of slowly came together into something fairly horrific, culminating with like Mara killing Ellery Peak on, in a very like dark, the top of the castle, Black Night kind of scene. Everybody's just kind of watching on in horror. And that was the moment for their characters where they became what they were always, one of the things they always could have become. And it set up like the entire rest of their story together. So I really enjoyed that too.
Some kick-ass moments. Go on, Sam.
I've got too many to really properly like mention, but I've been thinking about it as you guys have been talking. For me, I think my favorite moments have always been the moments where I've been able to like, there's like been a revelation where I've been planning something and I've been able to like put a twist in there or something. So like the first time that really like got me and kind of got me going in playing the game was Miria's potential torture scene, where I knew, because it was just narration, where Miriel didn't really have any agency in that moment, and we've spoken about that moment too, and it was well constructed because the character didn't have really any agency at that point. She was like strapped down. They were going to like torture her, threaten her with a snake and stuff like that. And then knowing that her uncle was going to like turn on the other guys and like get her out of there, like my heart was pounding as I was like if you watch back, you can see my adrenaline pumping as I'm like reading that, because I like know that's going to happen. And then like obviously, there's the shock of like rolling all those like all that crit and like possibly killing Alfred and then being like, oh, destiny points, oh shit, let's figure something out. But then actually my favorite bit out of all of that was again kind of figuring out what I was going to give Alfred in terms of the drawbacks, and also him discovering that he's in Tyrosh. Because it's like, first you hear things and then you can't see anything because you've got like this wrap around your head. So you lift up and you realize that you've got one eye and you're looking around this room and it's not Westeros. Like you're figuring this out and stuff. And then eventually figuring out, fuck, I'm in Tyrosh. Oh, fuck, that's Bittersteel. Oh, I'm in the Black Dragons camp. What the fuck? Like that kind of stuff. And what was the other one more recently? Oh shit, no, I've forgotten it now. But yeah, just those moments of revelation. And then the other moments for me as well were always like the worst moments for me were about like half an hour before we kick off, because I'm in severe personal doubt mode and I'm like, I know nothing, I can't GM, what is this shenanigans, what? But when we're actually like in a scene and I can just focus on playing an NPC, and I always come at it from the point of view of what motivates them, what do they want out of the scene, because then you can play anything. If you try and prep a scene where, I get on my soapbox sometimes, when you prep a scene and it's like, and this is adventure writing as well, and I get this from writers and I'm like, you can't do this, where they're like, so A is going to happen, then B is going to happen, and then C is going to happen, and I'm like, you can't do that, because no table will ever work like that. No group of players will ever do the same thing that you think they're going to do. So you have to come at it from a point of view of what do the NPCs with agency want from these characters? What do they want to get out of this scene or the session? So that's where I always come at it from. So being able to just like immerse myself in those scenes and just play and riff with you and like play the characters and the NPCs that I've portrayed, like that's like poetry. And by the end, it fucking sounded like poetry. We were saying stuff and I was kind of listening back to myself and listening back to what you were all saying, and it was like better than fucking season 8. It was like we were on the fucking show. Like those moments were, and I can't even like pick many of them out, but just when you like get immersed in a scene like that, some Alistair's scenes in particular, and others, like, when you can really kind of get into it like that, that's what I always really enjoyed. And so, by the point, at the beginning of the kind of game, I was like, we got this fantastic intrigue system and we're going to roll these dice. It's going to be fantastic. By the end, we're just fucking dramaing at each other. Like, but this season was just talking shit.
Exactly. We were like, role-playing game, don't know.
Yeah. No, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So just, moments of revelation. Where I was able to narrate things. And like, I really enjoyed the prologues as well. Like just getting to write those and then like read them off and stuff and give you hints about what was coming. And like, I feel like that first prologue kind of like set the tone. It was like, right, we're in it now.
We were expecting a prologue every season.
Every season.
Has to be that
episode
quality.
1, I was like, all right, let's fucking go.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Well, remember when we did the I think we called it the General, and then you were like, that's Harris. Harris is over
straight
there.
away I was like, it's my boy.
And I was like, poker face. Poker face.
The prologues never failed to A, inspire us for the season to come, B, make us super excited for things that we kind of suspected might come up because of it, and then the absolute sheer terror of what that might mean. Like, I know for me, the prologue that was all about Alistair coming out of the Red Keep was like, oh, fuck.
That was so fun to write, because I was coming at it from a point of view of like, solitary confinement and sensory deprivation is the most god-awful thing on this planet.
Mm-hmm.
It fucks people up. And so he's just like, how do you cope with that? So he imagined himself as a little rat. Because that's how he got through years of pitch black solitary confinement.
Ugh, poor bugger.
Yeah. And so, you see, we didn't see it as much maybe when he came out, because maybe there wasn't an opportunity to play it so much, but that was definitely like something that was kind of rocking around in the background of playing him whilst we were playing those kind of final scenes with him and Samuel and Mara.
We saw it definitely at the end of just quite how kind of mad that whole experience had driven him.
Just kind of unhinged a little bit. I think he properly believed that Samuel was just going to take him to Mara and either just be like, here, you can have her, or here, let's just go off and live together.
It got this close to Mara just being like, okay, if Alistair had been like, we'll go to Horn Hill, Mara had been like, fine, I don't care anymore, fine, I'll figure this out later.
I'm glad it didn't. It was just far more juicy.
That it didn't, but just from like a narrative thing, I think for Mara's story anyway, maybe for Samuel's as well, it was nice to have it on that knife edge where it just about went that way, and then Alistair made a choice that just was horrible for all three of them.
Alistair and Samuel's relationship, how his feelings towards Alistair was like the last little thing that I was like playing close to my chest.
Okay, so campaign. Spill.
He was almost entirely honest with Alistair when he met him at the end. Almost entirely honest. He had no intentions of sharing Alistair with Mara. He didn't trust that Alistair was the same person that when he was, basically a very young adult, old child, had loved, but he still felt like responsibility because he was just as guilty as Alistair was. And he got off and Alistair got this, and he still cared about him. He still loved him. So his hope was, I'm just going to keep lying to him. And as soon as we can, get him locked up, we will take care of him. We'll nurse him back to health. We'll do whatever we can to give him a comfortable life. But he also knew, like, if a blade was drawn, like if it came down to it, what he had to do.
Mm-hmm. I asked on after that episode, like, at any point in that, would Samuel have turned on Mara? Would he have walked away?
There was, yeah. If Mara had attacked Alistair, and this is because I had to, like, this is one of the few things that I pre-prepped, because I was like, I need to know, like, what my point of view is on this. I think in the moment, with as wounded and not well as Samuel was at that point, if Mara had drawn a blade and attacked Alistair, Samuel would have struck Mara down and regretted it afterwards. But he
Ooh. Oh, also, if you are watching us on YouTube, please do leave your favorite moments. If answer any of these questions that we answer in chat, because I'm desperate to know what everybody else's favorite moments and the like were. All right, question number 2. Did your character's ending surprise you? For me, no. Because I had been saying for about 4 seasons that I was like, this is it. She's not gonna make it. She's not gonna do it. Oh my God. How she went out, yes, that did surprise me. Like, getting magic bullshit by 360 no scope fucking magic blood raven, that did that the way. But it did make me think of when we very first started this campaign. Sam asked us to have a quote for all of our characters going into the campaign, right? Like, what was the little driving force of our characters? And I looked it up, and Miria's was, most men would rather deny a hard truth than face it, but face it we must. Our house gambled and we lost, but I will not make the same mistakes with my father. I will not. I cannot lose. And I think Miria's story was a story of someone trying to do better than those that came before her, but the weight of their legacy ended up dragging her down with them. You know, she couldn't escape the ghosts of everyone before her. Like, even as a child, she couldn't escape the ghost of her mother because everyone's like, oh, you look just like her. Oh, she never fucking met. She didn't know that woman. And then Oliver died. And then, you know, she felt that weight of his legacy and his purpose, and, you know, that those senses of justice and honor that he'd instilled in her, and she couldn't escape it. In the end, she did end up making the exact same mistakes he did. And she lost. But Sam brought this up the other day. The very sad parallel again between Miria and Mara is both of the men they loved died in their arms.
Yeah.
Yeah. More alike than
Horrible.
you want to admit.
Yeah, I love that for Miria. The last thing she got to see was the man she loved and the father of her child dying. It was great for her. I loved that.
Yeah.
Poor fucker. She never got a moment. She never.
No, she didn't. She not at all. I feel bad for her. She deserved more happiness. Like, I think for me, Mara's end was surprising, but not for the ways that are most obvious. Like, I always knew that it was never going to end well for Mara because that's her story. Her story is these moments of absolute joy, probably more than she deserves, more than most people in Westeros get with the life that she has. And they are. Her moments of joy are wonderful, and she gets everything she wants in that moment, but she can never hold on to it. She can seem to catch this thing, but she can't keep it and hold on to it and keep it safe. And like, that's been our whole thing right from the start. Her whole thing at the beginning, if going back to like the quotes, Mara was all about trying to get Miria back, and really tried. She was trying to like buddy up with Targaryen princesses and everything to make it happen, and it didn't end up happening because of where the story went. And so her entire story has been like trying to actually hold on to this joy that she keeps finding. I'm surprised that she is alive. I honestly thought that Mara would be dead by now. The list of things that have failed to kill Mara include stepmothers, shadow cats, 2 Valyrian steel swords, like Targaryen knights. She shouldn't be alive, but I think it's this horrible, horrible thing that like it's not really just. She deserves to not be here. She deserves to be executed just like Samwell. And like it's a weird, horrible justice, because on one hand, it's just that she loses this man that she loves. She took, you know, her sister's fiance from her and has done all this terrible stuff. So it's just in one way, but it's also not, because she doesn't really get what she deserves at the end of it to herself. Somebody else has to suffer and die for her to get any kind of, you know, what was coming to her and what she helped set in motion. And I think that's what surprises me, that she's actually alive. And that she both, you know, didn't and did get justice. It's really awkward and horrible. And I thought she'd be dead before the end of this season. I was absolutely certain that like the camp would be overrun and that'd be it.
Well, for me, I'm surprised that Costain's still walking around and happily just, you know, going about his fucking business.
Please tell us that in the future,
thought one of you
he
at least
dies.
will have sorted him out by now.
You're
He was
telling me
the
Baelor
villain
doesn't
of
behead that
season
fucker?
1. He was the villain of season 1.
He wouldn't come and play.
You're telling us that like Baelor doesn't behead this man.
Well, so his plan, if he'd managed to catch up with you, the two of you, would be to capture you, hand you over to Baelor, and then basically
I knew he was going to do that.
bargain his way into loyalty.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Was it your plan as well? Just like flipped?
Basically, like if he hadn't been with an entire army, you know, we only had 2 knights and I had infections.
Yeah,
Sam was a little bit, just a little bit fucked.
You have a little cut here and there. Yeah.
I still wanted to hand Costain over to Faye ultimately, but first, like Samuel was more than willing to throw anybody under the bus to live in that final scene.
Yeah.
But he didn't have anybody with him. All he had was words.
Mara was planning to do the same. Like Mara would have been willing, if it looked like that Baylor would have gone for it, to throw Miria under the bus. Any knowledge of the Dornish forces, like everybody, to save the two of them. It would have been bad.
Millie, was your last scene surprising?
Only in that I didn't think she was going to get away with it. I think it was very fitting for her and her whole story. Like Susie was saying, you sum up what your character's journey is, and I think for Faye she had a similar start to Miria, and a lot of the plot points in their lives early on were very similar. But I think for Faye, it's about a person trying to learn to let go of the past in order to build something new for the future, and how much of that past you're willing to let go of, and what can be kept and changed to fit the future. So it was very fitting that she finally sort of took the responsibility, took the power for herself, and just went, no, I've done this and this and this and this, and you will shut the fuck up and listen to me. This is who I am. Stab me if you want, but I'm speaking truth, and I'm doing it in a room full of people. You'll move, bitch. Whether or not
Queen shit. That's what Faye was doing.
Yeah.
Well,
and that was something that I was like tinkering with, depending on how the whole Blackfyre thing went.
It was kind of like one chapter of Faye's done. When she did that, you knew full well that's just beginning of another chapter. You know, there's
this is an
so
origin
much more.
story.
Yeah.
She's the next Olenna.
That's it. Yeah.
Well, the original Olenna. But yeah, I thought it was nicely fitting for her.
For me, to a certain extent, well, Alfred dying, every time Alfred did something, I expect him to die because the character was so poorly made. He was shocking. The only thing he was good at was with bows. Anything else, he was dire. So surviving and stuff. So everything he did, I expected him to die. After you've been critted by Samantha 5/6's web, you don't expect, you expect it at every corner. I'm wake, I get dreams and nightmares of that thing.
Wake up in a cold sweat.
Cold sweat. So no, I wasn't expecting. I didn't expect how he died, but I did expect him to die because it was just a massive cluster. Kind of when that happened, it was just chaos. For Enzo, no, I expected that's exactly where I wanted Enzo at the end of the season. Safe. He's got a very beautiful woman with him who is in a position of power, and
a ship.
He's got a ship. He's got everything he wants. He's in exactly where he wants to be.
His ship, which is absolutely a bunch of theatrical flats just carried around by a bunch of like elementary school kids.
Waves.
Yeah.
Waves.
That's all it is.
That's it.
It's why Faye's the only one to have seen it up close. Everyone else just points from a distance, like, look, it's there. I swear, that's a real ship. No, don't go any closer.
Yeah. Don't go. No, don't. It's fine.
I have to ask then, Sam, since Susie's not here, which of our characters, or which of the characters, any of them that we played, their ending, which one surprised you the most in like how their story ended?
I don't know. Because when I'm trying to write or figure things out, I'm trying to look at what could happen, not necessarily just what will happen. So I guess Sam and Mara to a degree, because I was obviously weighing up like if Costain gets them, then he's going to do this, but then if they go off their own back, what are they going to do? So I was genuinely surprised when Don, you were just like, no, we're just going to go and surrender. Actually, to be fair. No, I was most surprised by that, I think.
I think that's fair, because that hadn't been in the vocabulary prior to that moment.
Not at all.
Not at all. But for Samuel, though, like that, I thought about it a lot. Like that made the most sense for what he cared about, what he was trying to do, and also for protecting himself in this situation. I was not surprised by Samwell's death, how that ended. I long since thought that he was probably going to get executed by a Targaryen in this campaign. But I loved how it played out. Like, I loved the scene with Baelor and the Alistair scenes leading up to it. Just that entire little arc right at the end was more than I could have asked for. And with Mara in the final moments. But I wasn't surprised. And I wasn't surprised. I mean, like for the Faceless Man, he's still out there somewhere, you know, causing mischief and making deals with people. So I don't think there's any surprise there. But I was surprised when Oliver died. I did not see that coming at all. He lived it, you know, like.
See, you did that to yourself.
Oh, I know. But I didn't expect it. I didn't expect it. Right. Yeah. I thought, you know, we're at Fox Hollow. And in the moment, like he could have surrendered. Right. But he wasn't going to surrender. But I didn't expect for House Tarley and for House Oakhart to invade Fox Hollow and to actually be able to overcome the House Knights and for it to happen at dinner when I don't have my armor. You know what I mean? Like all of the things leading up to there, the breadcrumbs were really good, but I didn't expect it coming.
And you'd had wounds too, I think, which is why which is because you'd had this confrontation with Costain, but you had wounds, and so he was like, "Well, this guy's wounded, so if you know, hey, buddy, if now's the time, you know, Dornish guy, you don't like them, do you?" And then you know, pops Alistair.
Yeah, it was a very Game of Thrones moment in that it surprised me and changed the field, right? That's the thing about Game of Thrones. Like the twists aren't just there to shock you. They're there to change the way that you look at the world and the other characters and their relationships and the game that's being played. So anytime that there's a twist like that and it changes everything, I think that's thematically, that's perfect. And I thought that definitely occurred when Oliver was killed.
So I have a follow-up question for you there then, Don. If Oliver had not died, what was the play? Like, what was the plan?
It was a long plan. It started with, convincing Marcia, getting married to Marcia, convincing Marcia to help him take back House Ironwood from his brother Horatio, taking back the house, combining the two houses, Ironwood and Fox Hollow, basically into one house that guards both sides, both ends of the mountain, the way into Dorne. This was his way of stopping the Reacher Lords from, running down and invading Dorne and raiding villages. And it was a way to position himself so that when Blackfyre returned, anything that happened had to come through him. He didn't want the power broker to be Bittersteel. He wanted to be the power broker, but not because mostly because he thinks Bittersteel's a terrible person. and that was kind of his viewpoint because they fought together very closely in the previous war, and he didn't want it to end up the same way again. But that was the play in short. I don't know how it would have gone or how it might have changed over time, but that was the idea.
I'm always deathly curious because obviously Oliver being such an integral part to Miria's story, or more so the absence of him, I'm always curious what would have happened if he hadn't have died? Miria would have come back and he was fine,
He would have wanted to raise her to be whatever she wanted to be, including and up to becoming a knight officially. A member of the Blood Royals, that was his hopes for Miria, whatever she wanted to support that as far as he could.
Sounds like something that a father would do for his daughter, but that's just, I don't know, Chronicle.
Are we going to ask the question? Are we going to do it?
So it was a question that was asked by the audience, but I'm not allowed to know until Sam and I are white girl wasted and they're in the same room together. So what I can do is I can close my eyes and not look at the screen. And I swear to God, I will not look at the VOD because I genuinely don't want to know until Sam and I have the white girl wasted moment. And If one of you wants to do a subtle indication to the audience, I will not look. I swear on my honor as the Blood Royal.
I'm not going to do that.
I don't want to know until you know.
Asked.
It's not for the audience, it's for you. I'm not going to do that.
All right. There you
I
go,
love
audience.
that they asked, though. But yes,
Yeah.
I think,
That kind of thing definitely is best left to
until you're drunk.
Circumspection. Or wasted.
You'll know in like maybe about a year's time when I finally make it back to the UK, and there'll just be a distraught tweet.
Yeah.
And you'll know.
There's going to be a whole revival of Miria fanfic afterwards. I will be
in my fucking feelings. Let me tell you, I'll be in it. There'll be tears. So there you go, chat. Nothing I could do there. Sorry, my hands are tied, but she absolutely definitely was. All right, next question. If you if you knew your characters in real life, would you want anything to do with them? No, absolutely not.
Yeah, probably. I'd be fine with being friends with Faye.
I think Faye would be all right. Yeah, she'd be all right to hang out with.
I probably want to get white girl wasted with Mara and Samuel because they do enjoy a good party and can do a good party, but they're like that they're that group of friends that you kind of have but you don't associate with unless it's just to get drunk, because they throw a good party, so you show up for the wine and the booze and the Instagram photos, but like nothing else.
We've already been through like our modern day AU and we would hate all of them, right? We pretty much figured it out.
Yeah. We did many things, like which social media apps do they use? I think we also did what would it look like if all the characters went to the beach together, and that was just horrendous.
Oh, yeah, no, that's good. So no, short answer, pretty unanimously across the board, we would not want to know our characters.
No, I mean, if you were friends with Mara or Miria, you're dead. You're ending up dead. Just if you don't care about them, bad things happen to you.
Yeah. There's a couple here for about the next campaign, but we'll do those towards the end because we can talk a little bit about that. Most beloved NPC.
Gregor.
That's a good one.
Let's Clark.
Answer Clark.
Any of Sam's squires that she's.
Yeah.
I love Sam's tired squire energy.
Yeah. Oh, and the little serving boy at High Garden.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously have a very soft spot for Harris. I always have, ever since like Summer Hall, when he was so excited to go see Daera because she could tell him how good his dad was, and then she was like, "No, I was a dickhead," and his little heart broke, and I was like, So Harris has a big soft spot in my heart, but number one, the OG, the GOAT, Sir Babblebrook.
Yeah, Sir Babblebrook
Sir
probably
was
mine.
great. Yeah. And
favorites, bumbling. Great.
Favorites one thing, but like how Sam played Alistair throughout the campaign, but especially towards the end, I thought was particularly.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah,
I personally hated Alistair.
Yeah, Alistair was a little beloved NPC of mine, for sure. I was going to say that one as well.
You actually got me to feel sorry for Alistair.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. I mean, I felt a bit bad for Alistair right at the start, and I really played up feeling more sorry for him than I did as a player because it was fun to mess with everybody. Yeah. But like, I really grew to hate Alistair as a character, like in a good way, because you were kind of meant to for the terrible stuff that he did. But even I felt legitimately guilty at the end. Like,
good.
I felt so bad that Mara like wouldn't even look at him, wouldn't even go near him. Like, I can't imagine how horrible it must be to be locked up and be like to the point of obsession with this person that you are sure loves you and loves them, and it shows up not only have they married someone else, but like they are deathly afraid of you and you don't understand why. And I was like, I feel bad. God, she's such a bitch in this moment. Like, he is unhinged, so her fear is kind of based in like reality, but like he has such a complicated arc though, and so many like complicated things about him. His constant struggle with like trying to basically be his father and better, like his search for glory as a young boy, his conflicting feelings around hating the Dornish, but he's just married this woman who has Dornish blood and does the whole, you don't really count kind of thing. The whole complicated thing with Samwell and him finding that relationship there, and just NPC with like really amazing character development.
You know, another one of the NPCs who I fucking hate, but Sam did such a good job with. Horatio.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed playing Horatio. Just the kind of hedonism that he has. And I remember that really kind of being there from moment one when the brothers kind of meet and Oliver is, have confronted by him. And then their fight as well, where Horatio, even through the pain, is almost enjoying it. Like his whole kind of thrill for life and experiences, those extremes of emotion and feelings that you can have, be that pain or be that pleasure. Like that was always really fun to play. And he had kind of had like horrible kind of, it exhibited itself as a kind of grin, but it was almost that like kind of tantalizing moment of like, I want to see, I want to see the juice. I want to see where this goes. I want to see if we fight. I want to see if I can, defeat this person or whatever it is. I always really enjoyed playing him.
He was in like the second episode too. Mm-hmm. So I think Horatio is really like the first terrible person who's just overtly sort of antagonistic to our characters and whose worldview is so different than what's normal. That's the first one we met, first character like that we met, and he persisted.
Trash man. Chased him out of his own castle though, so eat shit.
Should have just killed him at the wedding, just been done with it.
Instead of wine and a knife.
If only I was a little bit faster, I could have caught him. All right. Next question. Those of you with living characters, so 3 of you here, where do you see your characters going from here?
Bedroom.
Enzo's got the best priorities out of everybody.
Hey, look, my whole family's dead. We need to build this up a bit. Yeah. So yes, like 50-50 split between bedroom and taking over that fucking court would be great.
Yeah. No, actually, I've got kind of like 2 ideas where it could go with Enzo. One's a happy one, one's a fucking tragedy one. They could go either way. The happy one is obviously he stays with Faye. They're very happy. He occasionally goes off, does a bit of pirating, not as much as he used to, comes back, lovey-dovey, hey, they have kids, blah, blah, blah. The happy end. The other one is that they have a kid, but when he goes pirating this one time, he doesn't come back. And Faye, like, isn't the House Rowan based on that character who someone went out to see or something like that, and they didn't come back, and they planted the thing for the tree?
It was kind of her lover left her for a rival.
Yeah, so
C counts as a rival.
Yeah,
I guess.
well, yeah, or that maybe she thought that Enzo kind of found someone better or something, but essentially he went off and he just never came back. And she doesn't know whether he was lost at sea, killed, whatever.
To be honest, that feels very fitting for them.
Yeah, it's a bit more
got
tragic.
To where we needed to get to, but at what cost?
Yeah, it's a bit more tragic, particularly if they have a
much
kid.
More Game of Thrones.
Very Game of Thrones. It can go either way. That's kind of like the general idea.
I really wanted to convince Lady Casella to stab her mother-in-law with a spear. And that might still happen in my head canon. Like, have you been keeping your arm in? Here's all this shit your mother-in-law's been getting up to.
Dornish women don't need that much convincing. Mm-hmm. They really don't. A little bit of wine, say the right thing, and she's there. Full armor.
On it.
I think for Mara, I think it'd be really easy for me to do like the straight logical one. It's just, she ends up in prison and it's terrible, but that almost feels not as miserable as her life could be, because that's like she then gets removed from all of this stuff and she could probably just sink into the darkness of a cell and never think about anything again. I think probably what realistically happens is that another Tarly family member, because there are still other Tarly family about, because we know that the Tarlys canonically still exist in Game of Thrones, probably takes over that house, somebody who is willing to be loyal to the Targaryens that they put in place. And, Mara is still part of the family. So I imagine it's the horrible thing. She has to live the rest of her life there. She probably never marries anyone again out of protest and also out of, grief, and also who's going to marry the traitor. Basically, that's she doesn't have those marriage prospects. She has nothing to offer, but then has to like live the rest of her life in this place that should have been, still is her home, but her and Samwell's home together, that should have been their seat of power. You know, she has to watch whoever takes over their children running around the halls instead of her and Samwell's children, and like has to basically live in the shadow of this life that she could have had all the way through. And I think that is ultimately way far more sad and horrible, and kind of more of her getting what she deserves than just being locked up in a cell somewhere. Like having to face the reality of this is what your choices have got you, as opposed to sitting in the dark and going mad. That just doesn't seem quite cruel enough for the way that Game of Thrones kind of likes to give its just desserts to characters that have really fucked people over. That's what I imagine the rest of her life looks like, and it's just miserable.
Ooh, Faye would plant another apple tree when she finds out about Samwell, for sure.
In my headcanon, Mara absolutely ends up writing to Faye to tell her what's happened. Like, I imagine it's Mara that has to tell Faye, because that's just horrible for that relationship.
Yeah. Oof.
Like, and it'd just be beautiful. I can imagine like the conversation or the letters back of how complicated and horrible that would be of these two women both losing someone they care about, and that ultimately the only time they ever got along was to do with him. But then Faye has always kind of blamed Mara for the way that Samwell was. It'd just be horrible and complicated.
Yeah. Red apple tree at Golden Grove, echoed by the gold one that's now at Hornhill. And nobody ever knows why. I kind of love the idea of trees lasting longer than people do. And everybody like, oh, that's weird. It must have been some like family swap apple, whatever the fuck, or it's just an apple
Mara
tree.
will remember Faye planting the one there, and like then also has to live her life knowing that Samwell might still be here if he'd married Faye, because this might never have all happened. Just
I don't think this would have happened if he married Faye. Faye would have snapped him into shape, you know.
Slapped him fucking silly.
There's only so much people can do.
I'm not convinced that even Faye could stop Samwell running to his death.
No,
it just happened differently.
Not from the point that they met in this show, for sure. But if you rewind it back far, like with anybody, if you rewind things back far enough, there are so many things that change. It's basically a different person.
Yeah.
There's a couple of moments in the whole game where I've been like, what if I'd taken the other path? Where would we be? You know, like when Daeron's like, do you want to be one of Aegon River's spies? And Miria's like, no. Where's she gone? Yes. Like what shape would the game have taken then? You know, if like would it have been like Miria sneaking around fucking Summerhall being a little spy? You know, that whole kind of thing. Ooh, what could have been
more spy network. That's what I want for Faye in future. Like larger reach, but also like keeping that beautifully golden child public image while quietly underneath it all having like a network of spies and saboteurs and all the shit she started to build in this campaign slowly getting bigger.
Well, she's in with Simon, right? Who's basically doing that in the underworld through the Maesters. So.
Simon's doing a whole bunch of shit that nobody ever talked about on this show. Like
I knew because Jason would message me.
King's Landing knows a whole bunch of stuff. Costain's fucked.
That extra bitch showing up with this fucking procession of mummers with his fool's gold mask and staff, being like it's the most Simon thing ever. It was perfect.
It's great. It's so great.
Oh God.
Brutal.
Okay, this question is for Sam. What were your favorite and least favorite parts of running the game?
My least favorite part of running the game was about half an hour before, where I was incapable of being human. And I've already kind of said my favorite parts really, which was about like just getting really into a scene and just kind of letting it kind of play out and really concentrating on playing the NPCs. But also those like, you know, narrated parts and like moments of revelation where I knew a twist was coming. And those moments where it kind of, you know, changes characters' fates.
Okay. So obviously we could sit here and talk all night, but we can't do that. does anyone have any last little secrets that never came out during the game that you want to get off your chest now?
Let me get my book.
Yeah, I have to look
What
at
do I
my
write
sheet.
in here?
Book of Secrets.
I didn't have any. Miria was a fucking
Targaryen
open book
that was
the
bought
entire
for me
time.
I mean,
by the
I mean, I wouldn't say secrets, but I would say I suppose secrets to it. With Alfred, the plan for Alfred, because I kind of really struggled with Alfred to decide on a direction on what to do. It's like throughout the whole time of playing him, I didn't really pinpoint on exactly what type of character I wanted him to be. And it was almost like I was building him as the thing was going. I was like, okay, this is like that. And before the final season, I decided for Alfred that once he rescued Miria and he got back to Fox Hollow, that was when he was going to start pushing to be legitimized as a Greenmont. So that he was that was his idea. For Enzo, I mean, not so much. It's more like more backstory, I suppose, with Enzo, because when I was creating Enzo, Sam very thankfully gave me the sheet where you can just do a backstory, and it tells you like where you go, your goals, your secrets, NPCs, and personal life, and it really helps kind of the thing. And most of the things that I said has already been kind of like why so all the rumors and stuff, all the things like he was the silver-tongued pirate and stuff like that, and all that, they were rumors started by Enzo. Everything was started by Enzo himself, because he didn't want to work hard. He didn't want to work for the pirates, so he wanted people to know it was him and realize that if they gave up, well, maybe he would let them live. So he didn't really want to work hard. So that was the thought behind that. Obviously, he had his sister, who was originally called, I think it was Aurora, wasn't it, Sam? It was a bit of confusion because I sent you the first draft, and then I updated it to Ezra because I thought Ezra fitted better with Enzo than Aurora. But then we kind of, on the fly, you just switched it to her pirate name was Aurora, but really she was called Ezra.
Yeah.
You already knew the story. She told you what was the story with her. They were twins and stuff. I think the only other personality kind of thing was that he was a hopeless romantic.
What? Enzo? No.
He didn't sleep. He didn't have a girl in every port or anything like that. He never used sex for political gain or anything like that. And I made it from the very beginning. So with Faye, if Faye wanted it to go a bit more serious, and as the seasons go on, as the episodes go on, he was falling more and more in love until he was just, that was it. So that's why he decided. So the first time where he ran, he wasn't sure, but then when he ran and realized it was a mistake, that's when he was completely head over heels, and that's why he just did everything he possibly could for Faye. So yeah, he was a hopeless romantic.
Aww.
I did just think of one for Miria, which never came up during the game because she was murdered before she had a chance to do it. But the morning after they made camp in the Red Mountains, she was gonna be like, right, pack it up, we're going home. Fuck this. Like, she had Harris there with him, like they had that moment that they were making those promises to each other before she died. And that was going to be her moment of selfishness where she was like, wait, why am I going to go and die? I have the man I love. I'm carrying his child. We're going to figure out that problem in the future. But right now, why the fuck am I going to go kill myself for someone like that? So yeah, they were going to go home in the morning. That was my thing. Yeah.
I don't think Mara was a fairly surprisingly actually honest character. She just did a lot of really terrible stuff very openly. That the only one that maybe resembles a secret is right at the end when Mara gets really pissy that they don't ask for her sword. There's a point the guard asks, you don't have a hidden dagger on you, do you? And she says, no, why would I be giving you this if I did? Mara did actually have a dagger on her. She's always owned a dagger. And I guess this is a thing of like, I briefly considered knowing that she had that in the tent. If Samwell had actually managed to get Baelor and had succeeded and not been caught by the guards in that moment, Mara would have been all for pulling that out and helping take that final blow. That was a thing that was there. Like as soon as that started going to combat, I was like, okay, if it goes this way and it looks successful, still never would have gotten out of there alive. But if Samuel had managed to fight, Mara would have fought with him. Would have killed Baelor confirmed. No, it's fine. She probably wouldn't have actually hit anything. Mara, if you look at Mara's character sheet, everything is basically 2s, apart for some 3s, because she can speak High Valyrian, thanks, Simon. And like 4s in deception and persuasion. That's all she could do. She was an awful fighter. Awful. Like incapable of anything.
Oh, I do have another thing for Enzo. He was actually friends with Maker.
Huh.
What?
Yeah.
Ew.
Wow.
I like the idea of because it was Maker that sent Enzo to Marcia. I like to think that in court and everything, Enzo actually became friends with Maker. And I think throughout the whole campaign, Enzo secretly wanted the Targaryens, the loyalists, to win, because he already put the effort in court and he didn't want to do it all over again.
You know, I can respect that was for an entirely selfish reason of like, I put too much work into this.
Enzo is an incredibly selfish character. It's all about him.
We love him though. He's great. I'll leave it up to Don if Don wants to share some of the other stuff about like the Tarly plans, what the ultimate plan might have been if this had continued. But
I always feel weird because I feel like, you know, if you demystify things too much, maybe it like removes from the point of the story. But there are certain things I could share, I guess. There was, so Samuel's long-term plan, and he was willing to either work with Miria, but that seemed increasingly more unlikely as time went on.
Can't imagine why.
I can't imagine why. And his plan was basically to take the Reach, work with Blackfyre, all the way up to the point that they take the Red Keep. And when they took the Red Keep, if they won the war, Samuel's intention was to turn on Blackfyre and take all of it. He didn't care about ruling the entire Seven Kingdoms. That wasn't his goal, but he did think that all of the kingdoms should be independent of each other. And that was the source of all of the massive, constant political problems. That was his plan. I knew we would never play a long enough campaign to get there. But that's what, you know, that was the moonshot. Some of the letters and things that he sent that never got read, I'll keep those a secret, because they could have been anything. They could have meant anything. But are there any, Samuel did not poison his father, try to kill his father.
He didn't.
It was a legitimate
He
sickness.
actually, you know, like he had a complicated relationship with Glendon. I don't know, complicated in like, I think a very toxic masculinity sort of normal way. It's very prevalent where there's this sense of like, I'm not living up to my father's expectations. He showers me with resources and everything I could want, but at the same time, he's not like very affectionate. So there's that kind of thing at play. But he, you know, he loved his father. They had a decent relationship, and he would not have murdered his own father just to take the seat of power. And Oliver definitely banged both of the Lord and Lady Greenmont at different times.
Of course he did. Of course he did.
Yes, he did.
Fucking telling you. Crinkle, crinkle, motherfucker. I'm telling you. I'm telling you.
That's a thing that like started as, I think it almost kind of semi-started as a like half joke back in season 1, that we were like, wait a minute, this actually makes a lot of sense.
But wait.
But what if it was real?
All right, Sam.
I can't really think of any. Who was the second child of Marcia's? Was it Wayland?
Wayland.
Absolutely bona fide 100% demon baby.
Yeah.
We knew
I knew it.
So the way that I was working this out was, because of course at the beginning of the session I didn't know whether Charlie or Marcia was going to go through with this, the whole like blood magic thing. So I was like, if she, it wasn't going to be about the role of whether it was a boy or a girl. It was always going to be about whether she had one or two children. And so because she did the blood sacrifice and stuff like that, she had a second child.
Yeah.
100% bona fide demon baby. Yeah. I really wanted to do that Maze Folk Festival that we joked about a couple of seasons ago, but with the sole intent of murdering somebody.
Oh.
Where's a good place to stash a body? In a fucking hedge maze.
Yeah.
So that was a plan that never got to see fruition. And also 100% absolutely the night that died in so there we go, that was the thing, right? So in Aerian's armor at Summerhall, 100% absolutely not him. I mean, we found that out from the actual final session, but and you were wondering about that for a while, but he just he's a fucking asshole. He's not gonna die himself and get up in his armor and stuff. He was well away. He and this rest of his Targaryen siblings are just fucked off and left the castle to burn.
I'm choosing to believe now that this is the event that convinces, because Aerion is a little shit and a bit batshit crazy. This is entirely the event that in his head he survived Summerhall. He survived the wildfire. This is the event that gives him the confidence to go and fucking drink it a few years later. That's what I'm choosing to believe now.
And I wrote too, because I was rewatching a few of the really early episodes, and I'm sure we've said this, I'm sure we've confirmed this before, but it was Maren Martell that paid Horatio to poison Oliver at that very first tournament.
Yeah, Miria found that out, and she used that as evidence to recruit other Dornish lords, because she's like, these bitches, he's fucking conspiring to kill you.
Oliver had a lot of enemies, didn't he? He wasn't.
He had a nemesis. He had nemesis.
Really liked him, and then a lot of people really freaking hated him.
Is super polarizing. Well, he was a Dornish, exiled lord turn hedge knight, but risen up within the Reach, which that's not normal, right?
Yeah,
I love
so
that
there are a lot
about
of Reacher
him.
lords.
I love that about the premise of him. Yeah.
All right,
but that's all the tinfoil I can remember.
We'll get more out of you.
Yeah.
Okay, so one last bit about peer pressure campaign. It is happening. Peer pressure campaign will happen. We have not yet had our session 0 sort of family chat about it yet, though, so I don't have any concrete details to give you. I will say that the current concept is going to be set as a prequel to After the Fyre, quite some years earlier during Nymeria's conquest of Dorne. So you're going to have to listen to my janky-ass Dornish accent for however long the campaign runs. I am not sorry.
For some reason, all the Dornish sound like they're from Yorkshire. What?
I know, fucking hell. By the fucking gods, it's Nymeria.
It should be Welsh, shouldn't it? Because Dawn is partly inspired by Wales.
I can't do a Welsh accent.
Yeah, I
either.
think so.
Tom, I'm going to need you to just... what I'll do, right, we'll script it, is I'll give you all my lines, and I'll need you to read them for me, and I'll just follow the mouth flaps like I'm doing, like I'm doing anime. Cheers, thanks.
Okay.
So that's the best about the next sort of adventures we're having Westeros. Now, if there happens to be a young Dornish woman who's extremely skilled with the spear, I can't be blamed for any similarities to any characters who may be living or dead currently. It's just how it happens. I don't know what to tell you.
Which is no joke or word of a lie, part of my character concept.
Really?
In Susie's defense as well, I did say that, Susie, please, can I have lots of buff, strong women for my character to horribly flirt with all of the time, please? Thank you.
Oh, this is going to be such
And Millie has, whether she really knows it or not, has challenged me to make the thoughtiest NPC possible to flirt with her. So just get ready for that. And then Tom's going to play a knight named after a font, maybe.
Yeah.
Oh, God, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
I love it. I am Times New Roman.
Garamond.
That's the name of Garamond.
No.
That's actually his name.
That's actually
the name.
Jesus.
Look, you can't blame me for that because someone told me. Who told me that? Who said that to me?
They were
I think
lying.
No.
So wasn't it you?
What we were
Susie?
doing is we were sitting in Discord having one of our usual chats of bollocks with if everyone in the family was a font, what font would they be? And I'm pretty sure I said that James would be Garamond. And then you were like, oh, that sounds like a good name. And then it stuck.
It's stuck.
It does.
Oh, no.
It's gonna be
my God.
Garamond.
So
Can
Garamond.
can I be Maester Sans Serif?
Yes.
Okay.
And we'll have faithful Squire Helvetica as well, following up the rear.
Helvetica, no.
Helvetica's an amazing name. That sounds like a warrior woman.
Damn. So that's where we're at with peer pressure campaign. So stay tuned for more information about that as it comes. Again, we're having a little bit of a break. As you may notice, Spy Game is also having a bit of a hiatus because things are very busy in the world right now and someone here is moving house. So, she's not available to change her desk so we can force her to GM every week. So we're having a little bit of a break here at Black Cast Gaming, but when we do come back, it's going to be juicy.
Yeah. And
but
I have aspirations to run a Star Trek game as well.
Yes.
I've been prepping bits of that. I've got ideas. I don't mind sharing little bits. Like the idea of it being like a DS9 style game. So it's based on a space station. You're not really going anywhere that much, but you've got to deal with like oh my God. I've just seen that in chat. You got to deal with like people coming in and different, stuff like that. Can run it based on the Shackleton Expanse campaign book that came out recently. And I was thinking of having like a core senior staff kind of cast, but then a lot of rotating guest stars as well. So I'm really about that. I want to play with more people, expand the fam out a little bit. So yeah, I may be in touch.
I've already got a character concept and I love her already.
Me too.
Good.
I was imagining her sat the other day in like a Quarks bar, and then she sat there and some fucking bullshit pops up on her pad and she's like, fuck's sake, and like throws her cup and they're like, they go replicate a new one. She stomps off to go fucking deal with whatever bullshit's happened this week. Me playing a Yankee girl, unheard of. Anyway, I think the last thing then to do is say our final goodbyes to After the Fyre. 3 years, 6 seasons. Who'd have fucking thought, huh?
2 seasons a year is not a bad average.
It's pretty good.
Really, is it?
That's really good.
It's pretty good.
Hundreds of hours of us being dramatic bitches now available for you to watch on YouTube at your viewing leisure. Please do enjoy.
That is 2 seasons a year, averaging about 10 episodes.
10 episodes. The famous 10 episodes.
Yeah, well, average. I think.
I like
Absolutely not.
Do you know how many episodes season 6 ran at? 18. We hit
really
18 episodes.
Hey, maybe the average isn't 10 then.
That's just a 10 with like a smudge in the middle, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think our lowest season was 10. Everything else
Probably
was way above it, probably. Yeah.
But yeah, so I just want to say a huge thank you to all my lovely friends here. Thank you for sharing your stories with me for all these years. And for being a part of Miria's story. Mostly me screaming at all of you at various parts in her story, but you've been amazing castmates to play with. Sam, you are an incredible GM. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you guys. It's been phenomenal. It actually just grew and grew into something that I could have never really imagined, that I didn't certainly imagine when we were putting the game together. I thought we'd do a season or 2 and we'd have a really good time and then that would be it. But much like his actual writing, it kind of expanded and we started to get like, 1 season became 3 and that was like an arc, and then we've done like another 3 as another kind of main arc. But yeah, and just for the fact that like it's because we were speaking towards the beginning of like, I almost didn't play, and like that's literally something I just cannot fathom now, because like we're such like, and we're not just saying this, like such close-knit friends outside the game too. Like we play video games together like on the regular, and like constantly like the After the Fire Discordy thing for our own personal one is like just at the top of my list because it's always the one that I'm like spamming with stupid memes and like chatting to people about things. So
we have the best
like,
memes.
I cannot fathom how we could not be friends.
Yeah.
I think that's what I'd like to leave it on for me personally. I cannot fathom how we could not be friends. And it's all thanks to this game.
It is.
I want to say like massive thank you to you, Sam, for like putting this together and ultimately, being that catalyst of starting the game that got us all together. And obviously, thank you to Charlie who helped like ferry everybody in.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't have been here if it wasn't for Charlie.
Yeah,
I do want to just give a shout out to Charlie and Jason.
Yeah.
Though they couldn't join us for the whole journey, like the journey wouldn't have been anything without them. So thank you both very much for everything you did.
But yeah, like Sam, not just for running the game, but I mean, like a lot of the first few seasons, Mara was not quite as bad as Neria, but cut off from a lot of people. So I was mostly just role playing with you playing Alistair. And so like having someone who's just so good at what they do to role play off of when you don't have like the rest of the cast to bounce off of, it's so hard to do. And you managed to do it for all of us at so many points for so long and keep doing that amazingly. Obviously, thank you to Dawn for, being part of Mara's story in this way, because this affected her entire character past that big time skip, and getting to like play out some really brutal emotional stuff with the two of them. That was fun. And just everyone else, like Susie, I will always treasure us screaming at each other. Always. And the Millie and I screaming in the back end of Discord after an episode being like theories and tinfoil, and all of the times that Tom and I never got too long role playing together because our characters were always apart. But maybe in the future campaign we can figure that out. But like
we'll
this
figure
is
something out.
I've never played a campaign for so long or a single character for so long. And I love all of you, and I love this absolutely crazy unhinged story that we have created over the last 3 years. I'm gonna miss it. I don't know, like it feels weird not having Thursday night and just sitting back for 3 hours watching our characters come out of our mouths and all of us being horrified at the end.
Like 3 hours of disassociation and then checking the VOD to see what we said.
It's not just me.
Just you.
All right. Well, one last thank you to you, the audience at home, whether you've watched us live on YouTube or live on Twitch or on YouTube. As Pope often says, the story is nothing without its audience. So thank you so much for joining us along the way, for joining us in the screaming in our Discord, and for chatting here and cheering with us and crying with us and, delighting in the juicy fruits. It has been an absolute ride.
And even playing in like sister campaigns with like this little Fireverse that we've got going on.
Side note, if you ever do play your own little Fireverse games, let us know. I want to know the drama. I want to know the fucking drama that's going on in your world. Tell me.
Absolutely.
Thrive on it. All right. Well, is there anything anyone would like to say before we leave? Any last words?
No.
That's
it.
Thank you.
That's all right. Well, we've got a little raid from the D&D group. Just found them, just browsing the categories. So go over to Tales of Initiative, give them some love and some juicy fruits in chat from us. But as Susie says, until our next campaign, and until our next few games lining up in a few months, take care of each other, and we will see you then. Bye, everyone.